Hey guys, hope all of you are doing fine. This is the part 13 of the Being Reborn in Marvel with Gamer's ability. Marvel Gamer Part 13. The Ancient One POV. 2 victories. 3 more to go. Ladies and gentlemen, let us continue with the show. The Beyonder announced with a wide smile. The next match will be Solomon vs Yao. So it was finally my turn. Take care, Alex sighed, his eyes seeming to look through me. Don't worry, Mr. Walker, I smiled, patting him on the back. In all of my years, I have yet to lose a fight. Alex looked at me for a moment, before flashing a hopeful smile. Still, take care. I nodded, as the Beyonder teleported to the arena. The arena in question had changed from an Asgardian-themed one to a plain desert. I supposed it was fitting, considering how I had lived my life. In life and death, the future is mine to control, so, here he comes. At the distance, the man that had spoken neared me, and I didn't need a confirmation or presentation to know, he was Solomon, the one I had to kill. Solomon was tall, easily over 6 foot tall, with very long hair and dark skin. For his clothes, he was wearing white robes and gold hoop earrings. He also had a staff that emanated pure mana. A mage. Well, this is getting complicated. And interesting. I smiled. Wise words, that lost all meaning as of now. I replied to his early comment. Why is that? Solomon asked, tilting his head to the side with a smile. I will win, and you will die, unless the future you command is one where I kill you. Your words have no meaning, I replied with a smile of my own. I see, Solomon chuckled, you are a very interesting woman, Yao. I truly feel bad for what I must do. Blame your creator, I sighed, he's the only one that seems to enjoy this. Show a monster, with powers beyond understanding. Enough chat, the Beyonder interrupted, his voice booming across the battlefield, and let the battle begin. The Beyonder had barely finished his sentence when Solomon instantly charged at me, throwing a few mana balls my way. Taking a step back, I created a defensive 3-layer dome around me with eldritch magic to block his advance, effectively neutralizing his attacks as they clashed with my barrier, before attempting to counter his advance with a sealing spell, that failed when Solomon teleported out of my range. Then, as quickly as he left, Solomon appeared behind me, quickly continuing his assault, this time however shattering the first layer of my shield with a single spell. You're strong, Solomon commented as he landed a few feet away from me, but not strong enough. What was with all these challengers being so arrogant? The battle is only over when one of the two is dead, not a moment before. You broke the first layer of my spell, I smiled. I hope you didn't forget about the second one. Eldritch Dome. A spell that sports 3 layers. The first one protects, it works as a basic shield. Now, the second one, that one immobilizes whatever happens to be strong enough to shatter the first layer. What? Solomon muttered, as his eyes dawned at the realization. Sadly for him, the realization of what was happening hit him a bit too late. For the moment he realized something was wrong. The eldritch chains that protruded from the ground were already around him, sealing him in place with a rather tight restraint, momentarily of course. Impressive, Solomon smiled. He was rather composed for someone in his position. Something was wrong. Frowning at his demeanor, I extended my hand towards him, blasting him with one of the oldest spells I knew, yet one of the most destructive ones, Eldritch Blast. That hurt, Solomon chuckled as the smoke cleared. He was fine. In fact, my attack did nothing. Don't patronize me, I chuckled, that didn't even scratch you. It didn't, Solomon nodded, breaking the chains that kept him in place like they were nothing. He simply flared his mana, and they crumbled. Well, I'll have to remedy that, I replied, trying to analyze the situation on a deeper level. He was strong, stronger than me. But, not strong enough to take an eldritch blast without a single scratch. Even Odin, who was stronger than him by a lot, would rather dodge that attack than tank it. Meaning, I was doing something wrong. I guess it was just a matter of waiting for layer 3 of my dome to do its job. Shatter, Solomon muttered, touching the ground with his staff in a delicate manner. Soon after, the arena started to shake violently. Frowning, I jumped into the air, using a basic levitation spell to avoid falling into the ground. Shake, Solomon muttered once again, this time pointing his staff at me. Needless to say, I moved before whatever he was commanding happened. Good call, Solomon chuckled, as the location where I once stood shattered into pieces, leaving nothing but a void of nothingness. His magic was affecting the space around us. Well, that was problematic. Time to buy some time. Thanks, I smiled, creating a few hundred illusionary clones around the entire arena. Do this old woman a favor, and let's play hide and seek me, and every single one of the clones I had created said in one voice. For now, I needed to buy time, at least until layer 3 did its job, which was to analyze what layer 2 had sealed. After all, I couldn't kill what I couldn't understand. And that was the purpose of layer 3, helping me to understand. Gathering valuable information. After all, one does not survive fighting gods and other beings that outclass you in power without knowledge. I do not wish to hurt you, Solomon sighed. If you surrender, I can guarantee you a quick, painless death. I have fought many entities in my life, some strong enough to erase you with but a thought. Believe me, child, the only one dying here, it's you. One of my clones replied with a sigh. I see, Solomon sighed. Then let us stop with this charade, he added, erasing all of my clones with but a swing of his staff. Very well, I sighed, so much for buying time. I guess some things have to be done the old-fashioned way. No, never mind. It seems layer 3 it's done doing its thing. I smiled, as the information came to me. Solomon was nothing but an illusion. I was fighting the staff. How peculiar. No wonder my attack did nothing. I was attacking a construct of pure mana, one that can be regenerated instantly. Now that I know what I'm facing, I know how to kill it. Shatter, Solomon said, pointing his staff, or rather his real body, at me. I smiled, opening a few portals around me. Catch me, I said, jumping into one portal, creating another as I continued to jump from place to place. Eventually filling a great part of the arena with portals, as Solomon continued his attack. You won't win this by dodging, Solomon frowned, without stopping his assault. I know, I whispered behind him, placing my hand on his staff, his real body. I will win by breaking your body. In shock, Solomon jumped out of my grasp, which was something I was expecting, for the real me was waiting for him with a very useful spell, one the Sorcerer Supreme before me had created to exorcise items like Solomon himself. Afari, Letari, Farah, I muttered, trapping Solomon in a bubble of dark magic. One of the few spells in my order that weren't related to the Eldritch arts, but to the dark arts. Sadly, it was incredibly effective. How? Solomon muttered, finding himself trapped. Hundreds of years of experience, I replied, as the spell started to do its thing. You are not the first sentient piece of wood I have battled, nor you will be the last, as absurd as it sounds. How did you trick me? Solomon inquired, looking at the fake me that had touched his real body, forcing him to jump towards my trap. Well, you are not the only one who can create solid constructs of mana, I replied. Well, that was disappointing, the Beyonder sighed. It was Solomon chuckled, his manner construct breaking piece by piece, in a painfully slow manner. Don't feel bad, I sighed, looking at Solomon. All my life I have battled enemies far beyond my power. For me, this battle was nothing but a day's work. I suppose Solomon chuckled once again, before both his construct and his real body, the staff, shattered. I see, when I created him I failed to account for that. The Beyonder sighed. Oh well, you win some, you lose some. So far, you have only lost, arrogant monster. Long live the king. Thor Odinson POV. The battle had ended, and once again our team had come victorious. Yet, I still worried. That man, that thing that called himself the Beyonder, was dangerous, too dangerous. I felt like a child, staring at an inconceivable monster, well beyond my power to stop. I didn't like this feeling. I didn't like feeling powerless. I suppose you are next, Alex commented, patting me in the back while looking at the Beyonder with a hateful glare. I nodded. Whatever this monster was playing, he was saving Alex for last. Perhaps in an attempt to torture him, I really couldn't tell. If I were truly mighty, I would be able to protect my brother, to vanquish this foe. Well, enough chat, ladies and gentlemen, the Beyonder began, but I cut him off, pointing my hammer at him. Enough talk, monster, and bring me, my challenger, so that you may taste defeat once again, I growled. How dare he play with us, how dare he abuse his power for his own entertainment. I might not be able to kill him, but I would not let him have his way. The Beyonder smiled, before breaking into a fit of laughter. Very well then, he nodded, teleporting me to the arena. Good luck, Alex smiled from the spectator zone, his eyes heavy. I knew what he was feeling because I too was feeling it. Don't worry, brother, I smiled at him, trying to cheer him up. We shall remain undefeated, of that, you have my word. Bold words. In front of me, something slowly appeared. At first, what materialized looked like a normal man, taller than me, but beyond that nothing. However, as the seconds passed, his once seemingly normal look changed, his human face changing into that of a wolf, that happened to be wider than a wolf's could be, locked in a permanent expression of delirious joy, his eyes, lidless and bulging as if about to pop out of his head, and his mouth, wide and gaping, showing impossibly large teeth, each one being as large as a dagger. Here's your challenger, Reinhard. The Beyonder grinned, pointing at the one who had mocked my words of support to my brother. All I see is a dead man, I shot back. I was not afraid of such display. I was the god of thunder, and to be afraid would be an insult to my people, and now, to my brother. Same here. Reinhard blinked as if surprised his looks hadn't affected me, before laughing. Well then, let the battle begin, the Beyonder shouted before disappearing out of sight. I looked at the beast in front of me, getting into a battle position that seemed to please the monster as his mouth stretched into a wide smile. Tell me, Thor, are you afraid? Reinhard inquired, his voice deep and husky, having low tones that scraped the inside of my head like nails on a blackboard. Of you? I scoffed, hardly. I see. Reinhard nodded. I suppose we are indeed different because unlike you, I am afraid. A wise decision. Those that have to face me should be afraid. I'm afraid of fighting, I'm afraid of getting hurt, but above all, I'm afraid of disappointing my creator, Reinhard whispered, his voice resonating around the arena. Enough talk, I growled. I didn't have the slightest idea as to what he was doing, but I had a battle to win. Very well, Reinhard sighed. Without further ado, I blasted towards him at full speed, as he simply stood there, looking at me, with a fearful look. He was truly afraid. What kind of sick game the monster that had created him was playing. Tremble, Reinhard muttered as I approached him, pointing his index finger at me. Then from the tip of his finger, something started to ooze, something black, and thick, but liquid. I shook my head at the sight, pushing my advance towards him, bringing my hammer down on him. The attack broke him, his body shattering into a bloody mess, leaving nothing but pieces of him around. And yet, I felt this was far from over. Then, as I pondered over that thought, my heart started to race. I was shaking, uncontrollably. What? I muttered, looking at my unsteady hand. I am fear incarnated. Reinhardt's voice echoed within my head, each word making my heart race even faster. Suddenly, images of Asgard falling to pieces, my brothers dying, and my people suffering appeared around me, covering the entire battlefield. I knew this was an illusion, and yet, my heart didn't stop racing, seeing the people I swore to protect dead, my brothers who I promised to take care of, everything I ever cared about, broken. Fear is in each and every single one of us, Reinhard muttered, his body materializing in front of me with a murder of crows, each crow seeming to fit a piece of his body like a puzzle. You can't kill fear. I froze. I couldn't move. I was afraid of him. No, I refuse. Then I will find a way, I roared, forcing my body to move. As my voice shook and broke, I was still afraid, it seemed, but not enough to lay down and die. I see. Reinhard laughed. Then, try for as long as you want, but have in mind, you can't kill a concept. I am fear, and fear cannot be destroyed. Fear cannot be destroyed. Then, I shall make fear, fear me. Alex Walker POV. What in the hell was Thor fighting? I couldn't see shit, the entire arena was covered in a black mist, and yet, even from the safe distance of the spectator area, I could feel my body tensing, almost as if afraid. This is bad, the Ancient One muttered, her body shaking ever so lightly. That thing Thor is fighting is dangerous. I nodded, my heart thumping. Thor Odinson POV. I swung my hammer left and right, my attacks suffering from the pathetic condition that afflicted me, as fear lowered my overall power. Fear can manifest in many ways. Shut up! I roared, blasting the area with a powerful thunderbolt. Like pain. With that said, I felt something pierce my lower abdomen. In pain, I fell to my knees, gasping, clutching my stomach to find a large sword lodged into me. As long as we are alive, fear will always be with us, Reinhard muttered, materializing in front of me, doing his crow thing once again. I know, I admitted. Then why fight it? Reinhard inquired. Because only a fool would let fear control his life. I roared, jumping to my feet, slamming my hammer on his head, but like many times before his body broke into a murder of crows. But Thor, fear dictates your life, Reinhard muttered, his voice echoing around me, seeming to come from everywhere. You fight because you fear losing your friends, you eat because you fear dying of hunger, you love because you fear dying alone, you boast because you fear being left behind, you see. Fear already rules your life. Was that true? No. 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 I refuse to let a wolf-feathery freak tell me how my life is or was run. I refuse to believe that. I growled, I fight because I want to protect, because I enjoy fighting, I boast because I am mighty. I love because I rather love than hate, fear has never, and will never rule my life. And you deny everything because you fear, I am right. I growled, I don't care how many times I have to kill you, I will continue fighting for all of eternity if necessary. I feared as much, Reinhard replied, as a new pain invaded my body. This time attacking my leg. Though I'm afraid you don't have much time ahead of you, Reinhard chuckled, once again materializing in front of me. Piercing my body once again with his swords. Damn body of mine, If only I wasn't afraid. The Ancient One POV. So this was it. I finally understood that vision. It wasn't Null who would push Odin to give Thor his power. It was this beast. A being of all black, just like Null. A being that represented fear incarnated. Old friend, now is the time, I muttered, looking with a frown at the black mist that covered everything. Odin Borson POV. It was time. I could feel it. I guess in a way I was glad it wasn't Null just yet. My boy wasn't ready. Not by a long shot. I guess for one I am happy I misunderstood a vision. Long live the king, I muttered with a tired smile, letting go of the power that made me the king of Asgard, for it was time for Thor to take my place, and become the greatest of us. Thor Odinson POV. A few moments earlier, I was losing. No matter what I did, no matter how many times I destroyed his body, or how many times I killed his crows, he always came back. Each time, lodging something into me. Each stab, each attack, nearing me closer and closer to the gates of death. To my last destination. Give up, Reinhard offered, as I knelt on the ground in pain. My legs and arms bleeding from his last attack. Eat shit, I growled. You don't have to fight, you don't have to win, your team already won. Reinhard sighed, your team won 3 matches, out of 5. By the rules you guys won, 3 of you won't die. Which meant, Alex and I would. As if I would allow such a thing. I know you care for them, for that man, but believe me, if you think of me as a monster, I'm afraid to know what you will think of Morpheus when you see him. Reinhard chuckled, patting me in the head. He's a peerless individual. Alex will win, I grinned, spitting some blood, and so will I. How? Reinhard inquired. You can barely move, so tell me, how do you plan to kill me? Give me a moment, and I will find how. I growled. Even if you killed me, Reinhard sighed, Morpheus will kill him. To him, we are bugs, and that includes me. Go kiss the fucker then, I roared, forcing my body to stand up once again. This has gone long enough, Reinhard sighed, creating a large sword above me. But before he could strike me, a voice was heard around the battlefield. Long live the king. I recognized that voice. Father. I muttered as a beam of pure light engulfed me. What is that? Reinhard muttered, taking a step back. He. This is getting interesting, the Beyonder laughed, clapping his hands in pure delight. Reinhard POV. How curious. Thor's power was increasing exponentially as an unknown beam of light engulfed him in a blinding display. He was becoming stronger, just like those before him. It seemed that perhaps that was the purpose of this tournament, helping them grow. I wonder. Did our Creator ever truly wanted us to win? Father. Thor mumbled, as the light cleared out. So the one behind that light was his father. I scoffed, that seemed hardly fair. Getting a power-up in the middle of a fight that by all means was already mine. You are stronger, I sighed, taking a step forward. Perhaps our God, our Father, our Creator intended us to die right here, right now, but if I was allowed to wish, I wanted to win. Yes, Thor nodded, a somber look on his face. Then let us resume our fight. No matter how strong he had become, no one was immune to the fear in their hearts. If it lives, it knows fear. Let's. Thor nodded, getting into position. His wounds bleeding into the ground beneath us, it seemed his power-up had not healed his broken body. Good. I will win, for I fear what awaits me beyond the mortal veil, I muttered, extending my shadows around him. However, as my shadows reached and tangled around the God of Thunder, the god in question disappeared out of sight, blurring in a single motion of unimaginable speeds, appearing right in front me, hammer already ready to strike me. I didn't even see it coming. No, that wasn't accurate. I saw it coming. I just couldn't move or dematerialize my body in time. His attack was swift and powerful, and it brought me down with the might of 1,000 suns, creating a crater of massive proportions as my body violently crashed with the unforgiving soil I once stood above firmly. However, as strong as he was, I was an idea, a concept, a primordial thing within everyone's heart. Fear can't be broken, I spoke, forcibly regenerating my body. I suppose not, Thor nodded. He was agreeing with me. How peculiar. Then why try? I asked, tilting my head. Why? Thor sighed, looking at his friends with a longing look as a wide smile spread on his face. Because I fear disappointing my brother, as his big brother, I must protect him, it's my duty, he grinned. He wasn't looking at them, I see, he was looking at Alex. You defy fear, because of a friend. That concept felt foreign to me. Then again, I had been alive for less than a few months, much of this wonderful universe was foreign to me, unknown. Still, to fight a natural phenomenon, fear, for the sake of a friend, I didn't have to understand to know it was stupid. You think of me as a stupid man because of that, because even in death I would swing my hammer for my brother, Thor spoke, drawing my attention, and perhaps I am, but know that this stupid man pities you, really, I see that look in your face, you can't comprehend what it means to be ready to die for others, what it means to value someone beyond your own life, because in reality you are alone, and that's your fear, isn't it? My fear. Was that my fear? Being alone. You truly are an interesting individual, I laughed. Perhaps he was right, perhaps I was afraid of the inevitable truth. Of the crushing reality of my loneliness. Even if I won, would that man reward me? Even if I won, would my destiny have any light? Would winning ensure my life? No, no matter what the result was, my life had an expiration date. Just like Dorothy's. I just didn't want to admit it before. We were created for a purpose, and beyond that our Creator had no use for us. We were toys, ready to be broken once we stopped being entertaining. After all, I am mighty. Thor beamed at me with a smile. Fight, win, lose, life and death. What did I want? Did I truly wanted to fight? Did I actually wanted to win? No. I didn't want that. What I truly wanted was a choice. The freedom to choose, at the very least, how to end it all. I give up, I announced with a smile. You can't, the Beyonder stated, appearing above of me. You can't. Thor shouted, agreeing with the Beyonder. I refuse to indulge your sadistic desire to see us dance, I replied. After all, if I was to die, I would die on my own terms, because what I feared the most was being a puppet. I see, the Beyonder laughed. To think you of all would evolve. I sighed, turning to look at Thor. Tell your friend to be careful, for Morpheus still stands above you all. Morpheus was the embodiment of one of the strongest forces in all of creation, the imagination. Hey, don't you fucking dare. We still haven't finished our battle, Thor roared in indignation. I laughed. I was made to be the embodiment of fear. I'm afraid I'm not the best example of what a warrior should be. Well, the winner is Thor. My Creator announced, meaning my end was near. I guess I can die happy, knowing I made my own choice. Wait. We haven't, as just like that Thor disappeared, back with his friends. And you, my Creator turned to look at me, his usual smile still in place. I know, I made my peace with it. I wonder if this counts as dying for someone else. How curious. Here I came to teach the god of thunder about fear, and he ended up teaching me about hope and sacrifice. Life sure is funny, and unpredictable, even for a monster like me. Alex Walker POV. Thor was losing, and then in the blink of an eye, his power and level changed. He was now 70 levels higher, sporting a new title, Thor the All-Father. Power locked, evolution in progress equals LV 421. And then, in another fucking turn of events, his enemy surrendered. We still haven't finished our battle, you fucker. Thor roared, this isn't a victory. I refuse to take it as one. The Beyonder laughed, pointing at Reinhard, you truly changed, oh well, bye-bye Tilda, and with that said, he erased Reinhard from the map. You bastard. Bring him back, so that I can kill him. Thor roared. Stupid Bucky muttered. Well, Alex the Beyonder appeared in front of me, are you ready to see where your limits lay? Not really, but what other choice did I have? I created Morpheus to push you beyond the breaking point. After all, the Beyonder grinned. Alex Walker POV. Thor had won. Unconventionally. But had, like everyone before him, earned our team a victory. Now, it was my turn. I wasn't sure what to expect. But I knew it was nothing good. Reinhard had been very clear, even with Thor's power-up, we were out of our league when it came to the last contestant. And while Reinhard was an enemy, I couldn't bring myself not to believe him. Which meant, if Morpheus was truly stronger than him, than Reinhard, stronger than Thor, I was in trouble. Thor and his level had reached the 400s. And even then, Reinhard considered Thor below Morpheus. Meaning, 1, he was severely overselling Morpheus, or 2, Morpheus was above the 400s. Well, are you ready? Alex the Beyonder asked with a wink. Fucking monster, if I ever live long enough to surpass him, I will erase his ass. Not much of a choice, I sighed. Good. The Beyonder beamed at me with a smile, teleporting me to the arena as it changed to an urban setting to match my theme. The bastard didn't even let me say anything to my friends. Well, I suppose this is fitting. I do live in New York, I muttered with a sigh, cracking my neck. So, you are Alex, I heard someone chuckle behind me. Startled by the sound, I turned around to see a red-haired man around 5 feet tall, looking at me with a faint smile. He almost looked bored, and dare I say, disappointed. Morpheus LV 499. Lamentably, I replied, looking at him, frowning at his level. He was well above my power, well above. I suppose I will have to rely on strategy alone if I want to survive. Are you two ready? The Beyonder asked, getting a nod from Morpheus. It's now or never, Alex, do it like a band-aid. Yes, I nodded. Good. The Beyonder smiled, clapping his hands as a small giggle escaped his lips, overjoyed at what was about to erupt, a battle he seemed to be looking forward. Then, let the battle begin, he announced for everyone to hear, before vanishing into God knows where. The moment the Beyonder vanished, I jumped a few meters away from Morpheus, as he simply looked at me amused without moving a single muscle. I frowned. He was measuring me up. Good. I can work with that. Requiem, Arc, I muttered, creating a magic circle around him. Peculiar, Morpheus mused, touching the magic circle around him with childlike curiosity before it exploded on him, creating a big cloud of smoke and debris. A vacuum of space. How creative, mate. It had done nothing. I figured, I cursed under my breath, readying my next spell, and currently my strongest one, Mana Reaver, a spell that consumes all of my mana to create the equivalent of a magical nuke that affected everyone but the green dots on the map. That feels powerful, Morpheus whistled, pointing at my spell as it charged and morphed, and yet, he didn't move. Not dignifying that with a response, I aimed the spell at him and allowed, Mana Reaver, its thing. The explosion this time was massive, covering the entire arena, that according to my minimap was around 20 km wide. That had to do something, I muttered, as my mana regenerated. Well, it kinda blinded me, Morpheus chuckled. How the fuck had he tanked that? Focus, Alex, questions for later, first. Kill this guy. Do you realize how our strengths differ? Morpheus inquired, cocking his head to the side with a wild grin. Fuck you, I cursed with a smile. After all, if my power alone wasn't enough to harm him, it was time to use the stones. After all, the Beyonder never said anything about not using them, his fault, not mine. And fortunately for me, my level now allowed using 2 stones at the same time. Rude, Morpheus pouted, as I equipped the time stone and the power stone. I said, I muttered, accelerating time around me to move behind him in the blink of an eye, as I charged my fist with the power of the power stone, punching the bastard with the strength to fuck a planet. Fuck you. The attack sent Morpheus flying across the arena, leaving nothing but blood behind his wake. Which alone was surprising. I had attacked him with enough power to destroy a planet. The energy I had channeled from the stone to my fist was enough to vaporize a planet around Earth's size, and yet, he was still in one piece. The Infinity Stones, the Beyonder chuckled. I was wondering when you were going to use those. Pretty jewels, useless, but pretty. I frowned. The bastard was expecting me to use them, meaning, he made Morpheus strong enough to take some hits from them. Well, mate, I'll be the first one to admit, that hurt like hell, Morpheus chuckled, teleporting in front of me. My turn. He added, tapping my chest. What? I fell to the floor, vomiting blood. He had exploded my heart and everything else inside my chest with a simple tap. How was that? Be honest, Morpheus asked with a smile, kneeling to my level. Any feedback will do. Fuck this. Growling, I punched Morpheus once again with the full might of the power stone, as I used the time stone to accelerate my already stupid healing factor. Note to self, don't let the little bastard touch you. I cough. Regenerating organs was not a pleasant experience, even if all it took was half a second. Like this. Behind me. Without a second thought, I moved using the time stone to accelerate my moves, creating some distance between Morpheus and me. Sadly, I didn't manage to avoid his touch completely. He grazed my arm, and the entire thing exploded. Fuck. I cursed, using the time stone once again to accelerate my healing, regrowing the arm in less than a second. I see my error, Morpheus chuckled. My first attempt should have been your head. Don't worry though, I will remedy that, he added with a sadistic grin. Your second mistake was thinking I was about to give you a second, third chance to touch me, I shot back. If he wanted war, he would have it. It was time to use the time stone and the power stone at max power. Oh, Morpheus smiled, clapping his hands. I can't wait to see how you stop me, he grinned. I sighed. I didn't like using both stones at full power at the same time, but seeing how the little bastard had me on a corner, I had no choice but to buckle up and try my best. So, I took a deep breath, allowing both of the stones to fully integrate with my power. Future vision activated. Accelerated aging / healing. Accelerated mana aging / healing. Time dilation shield activated. Power stone aura activated. Power stone energy absorption activated. Well, here I go, I sighed, moving behind Morpheus in a blur of motion. Blasting him with a beam of pure destructive power from the Power Stone itself. That hurt. Morpheus chuckled, trying to attack me. However, I was prepared. I had seen his attack coming, a few thousand times, from a few thousand different angles, meaning one thing, that attack could no longer reach me. Bye, I muttered, dodging his attack while blasting him away once again. You are a crazy guy, Morpheus laughed. You are aging your body decades by the second, he chuckled. You will die of old age before you kill me if you keep at it like that. I snorted. I regenerate faster than I age. Maybe, Morpheus shrugged. This was going to be an annoying long fight, I just fucking knew it. The battle continued. And no matter what I did, Morpheus seemed to be unfazed by my attacks. No matter how many times I attacked him, he would brush the attacks off like they were barely an inconvenience. That bothered me. It bothered me a lot. Is that all? Morpheus asked, with his ever-annoying smug smile on his face, a smile that said, "This is a game for me." I said nothing. I would not dignify his mocking behavior with answers. I would kill him. No matter the cost. You don't get it, do you? Morpheus moved behind me in a blur of speed, touching my shoulder in an almost friendly manner. Time, power, none of those things works against me. I am beyond power, I am beyond time. I jumped, making some distance between us. I am imagination, Morpheus smiled, cocking his head to the side. What I imagine becomes real. If I imagine time doesn't work on me, it doesn't. If I imagine my body being immune to damage, my body becomes immune to damage. No matter what you bring to this battle, I will simply imagine my way out of it. I growled, using the time stone to freeze time around us, in a small but contained bubble that covered the entire arena. However, Morpheus simply laughed, as everything around the arena, save for us, was frozen in time. Didn't I just tell you? Time doesn't affect me, because I imagine it doesn't. What kind of bullshit power was that? How was I supposed to battle someone that can imagine his victory over every card I have? Then again, he has yet to kill me. Why? If such power is within his hands, he could simply imagine my death. And according to him, whatever he imagines becomes a reality. Therefore, imagining my demise was the soundest course of action. Perhaps, just perhaps, he can't affect me with his power, at least not directly. So far to hurt me, he has had to touch me. I will find a way to kill you, just give me time, I grounded out. Since the moment I woke up in this universe, everything in my life has been a fight. Hydra, the Dark Phoenix, everything. I always prevailed. I intend to prevail. By all means, give it your best shot, Morpheus chuckled, scratching his head. I spat, cocky little shit. Taking a deep breath, I started to weigh my options. 2 stones had done nothing, and the one stone that could have possibly trumped his reality-bending powers was still not in my hands. I still had a few cards up my sleeve. Equipping the Space Stone, possibly damaging my body beyond repair. And the axes Thor had given me. I also had the rare candies to get some levels. That would give me 30 levels. Though it would be a waste to use them here. Are you done? I'm bored, Morpheus yawned. I frowned. Fuck it all, time to play aggressively. Space Stone manually equipped. Warning. You don't have the required level to equip 3 Infinity Stones at the same time. Do not proceed. I ignored the notification. Effectively equipping the Space Stone. Equipping the twin axes. I sighed. I felt okay so far. 3 stones, 1 more than I could handle. And the axes. This was my limit right now. Now, would that be enough? Here I come, I sighed, looking at Morpheus before I blasted towards him, bending the space around him, in a combination of both the Power Stone and the Space Stone to create a pocket dimension that worked as a nuke. Meaning, everything within the small dimension would explode, while the outside, the dimension holding the pocket dimension, received no damage. That was quite interesting. Morpheus grinned, appearing right in front of me, before kicking me in the gut. Soon after, everything below my torso exploded in a bloody mess, as Morpheus laughed in mad delight. I regenerated in less than a second, landing a few steps back, gasping for air. Even though I had regenerated, I had felt how my body exploded. I had felt every part of it, and my body, while fully healed, was in shock. First time getting half of your body blown? Morpheus inquired, tilting his head to the side, index finger pressed upon his lip. I growled. Extending my axes together, canalizing the power of all 3 stones in a singular point before letting it all out in a slash that transcended time, space, and power itself. That had to do something. I had let out enough power to destroy Earth several times over. That one actually hurt. Morpheus grinned, as the smoke of the explosion cleared, revealing his unharmed self. What? I took a step back. He had to have a weakness of some kind. Anything. I refused to let it all end here. Well, that's enough, don't you think? I already defeated you where I wanted. Morpheus grinned, pointing at his head, and then at mine. I broke your spirit, and your body more than enough to prove I am superior. Now, let's end this little play of ours, he finished with a dark, menacing tone. If I couldn't win, I could stall him forever. As long as I had the stones with me, time was nothing. I might not have the power to kill you, I replied, taking a step forward, but I will never stop trying. Correction, Morpheus chuckled, you will die trying. As he said that, I started to cough blood. The stones were taxing my body for overreaching. I might not even have to dirty my hands with you. It seems you are doing a fine job killing yourself, Morpheus pointed out. Nonetheless, he smiled, snapping his fingers. At the same time, I fell to my knees, bleeding from every orifice in my body. I was coughing, crying, and feeling the blood pour into the ground, leaving my body without a sign of stopping. You must have had assumed my powers only worked if I touched you, didn't you? Morpheus asked, walking towards me. What, wasn't my body regenerating? Why wasn't my body responding to anything? Well, the truth is, everything in creation is mine to control, Morpheus chuckled. By this time, I could already see his feet, right in front of me, like right now. I imagined the stones had no power, and your body was bleeding out from every hole, and for good measure, I also imagined your powers weren't working. I had to move. My daughters. My life. I still had things I wanted to do. Anyways, I don't like seeing people suffer, so I will end your suffering. Consider a gift, Morpheus spoke, his hand extending towards my body. The Ancient One POV. Alex was dying. That couldn't be. I saw his future, glimpses of what he was to become. And yet, there he was laying on the floor, unable to move. Don't you dare! Thor roared, punching the field that kept us in place. He wasn't alone. Both Bucky and Sif were trying their best too. Even I was trying to break through what I knew was impossible to break. Alex. Bucky growled, slamming his fist against the field, as he looked at the Beyonder, who simply grinned in delight. You bastard. The Beyonder laughed. It's finally happening, he's evolving. He's growing. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. I will kill you. You hear me? Thor roared, looking at the Beyonder in the eyes. No matter how much time it takes me, I will kill you. The Beyonder simply ignored him, his eyes only on Alex. As for me, I was still trying to understand what the Beyonder meant by his evolving. Alex Walker POV. As I saw the hand of Morpheus approach me, I couldn't help but think. Is that it? Was this really my end? I didn't want to die. Not by a long shot. I loved my family. I loved my friends. I wanted to live, I had so much to live for. But, I wasn't strong enough to make that happen. Time to die, Morpheus smiled, placing his hand on my head. I cursed my weakness, as I waited for whatever was about to happen. However, as time passed, nothing happened. Morpheus was just there, doing nothing. And this time, it seemed to affect everyone. Even the Beyonder who a moment ago was cheering looked like a statue. My system. I thought Morpheus had disabled my powers with his fucking power. Dots. What was that supposed to mean? I guess whatever it's happening saved me. You wish to be saved? I blinked. This was new. Yes, I strained, wondering why my power was doing whatever it was doing. These parameters are unacceptable. Power within more than enough to vanquish the homunculus known as Morpheus. Power within more than enough to vanquish the Beyonder. Current situation unacceptable. I blinked. What in the fuck was going on? Safe mode has been accessed. Situation dire. Body in distress. Death was imminent. Therefore, safe booting mode has been accessed, to avoid certain doom. My power had a safe booting mode. Recommendation equals initiate self-recovery mode. Will that make me win this battle? I asked. Anything to win this, and end my nightmare. Yes. Then so be it. Then power of mine, reboot my ass. Then I chuckled. To think my power was really like a computer, safe booting mode, and everything. Initiating self-recovery mode. Morpheus POV. I reigned supreme. My powers were the epitome of everything. Only my creator stood above me. And this battle had proved just that. Time to die, I smiled, touching Alex's head, ready to explode his entire being. However, nothing happened. What? Restoring body, Alex spoke, his voice sounding almost robotic and devoid of life. Infinity stones, unnecessary. You found your second wind, I smiled, seeing how his body had recovered back to full health. Remarkable. Body restored, initiating extermination. Alex turned, his eyes on me, and it was here when I noticed something. His eyes had halos in them, bright halos emanating pure cosmic power, just like that of my creator. I took a step back, my body trembling. I won't be. The Beyonder POV. I expected many things out of this battle. But him evolving to such an extent. Never. With but a simple glance, he had erased Morpheus's existence. You did it. I clapped, moving to the arena. Target acquired, Alex spoke, his voice devoid of all emotion as he turned to look at me. Initiating extermination. What? I mumbled as I felt what could only be described as another godly being trying to erase me. However, I was strong enough to resist the pull. Remarkable, as you are now, not even the living tribunal could touch you, I clapped. He was the one I needed, to fill the void my desire had created. He would help me. Elimination failed, Alex spoke, body and power still conflicting, further developing needed, proceeding with next best attempt, dimensional ban, parameters acceptable, power sufficient, initiating ban. I frowned, we would have to do something with his new way of talking. He was. Where the fuck am I? I muttered. One moment I was looking at him, and the next, I was in the middle of nowhere. Quite literally. That little bastard. Ha 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 ha, I laughed. The little shit had kicked me out of his dimension, and to make matters more interesting he had cloaked his dimension out of my sight. Very well, he has earned this. After all, he won the tournament, and his wish was for me to leave him alone. I reckon a few decades will be enough for him to forget everything, and for me to find where the hell was his dimension. Sif POV. Alex had won. But he felt different. Alex, I muttered, running towards him. But as I ran, his cold gaze stopped me. Erasing pocket dimension, Alex spoke, as everything around us started to crumble. Was that really Alex? I see now, the Ancient One chuckled, as I turned to look at her. What is happening to Alex? I asked. She had to know, she knew him better than anyone else. That what you see, is the manifestation of Alex's power, the embodiment of symmetry, the Ancient One began, talking a few steps forward. However, it seems that without Alex's input, his power was capable of doing much more. Will he go back to his usual self? I muttered, as Alex snapped his head at me. Affirmative, Alex spoke, exiting self-recovery mode. The Ancient One POV. I finally understood how Alex operated. He wasn't symmetrical, he was the embodiment of symmetry. One moment, he was losing, and the next, his power had increased to the point he eclipsed even the likes of Dormammu. It was incredible. And mildly terrifying. The moment his power increased, all signs of Alex disappeared, leaving what could only be described as a computer. No more I would see the marks of his asymmetry. What stood in front of us was perfect. Both physically and magically wise. No flaws. No emotions. Just it. I explained that to Sif, that almost seemed scared at how Alex was acting. Not that I blamed her. All spark of life in his eyes gone. Leaving just an emotionless husk of the man we knew. Even at my marvel, the sight of such a change was unnerving. Affirmative, Alex spoke, exiting self-recovery mode. I blinked. His body fell to the ground as soon as he spoke those words. His body and power, returning to what once was, as we were abruptly kicked out of the dimension where once were. Leaving up in the middle of the desert where we had started the raid. Brother. Thor was the first to move, rushing to Alex's side. Soon, the rest followed, including me. He was okay. I could feel it. And now, I could also feel his little defects within, the little things that made him, him. I smiled. I was glad. We have to take him home, he needs time to recover, I stated. No, Bucky shook his head. If the girls see him like this, they will panic. Then what do you suggest? Sif asked, grabbing Alex's hand. Take him to Asgard, or with you, Ancient One, Bucky sighed. The last thing he would want to do would be to scare the girls. I nodded, he had a point. He will come with me then, Thor nodded. Are you sure? I don't mind, I replied. Thor turned his head to me. I failed to protect him once, I won't fail again. I blinked. What about Loki? Thor sighed, looking down. I will do whatever is necessary. Impressive. Thor might not be able to kill Loki if the situation calls for it, but I will, Sif hissed, grabbing Alex's hand tight. Very well, I nodded. Not like Loki could harm him. If that part of Alex decided to awake once again, Loki would be gone before he could plan his next revenge. I will take care of the girls, Bucky nodded. I looked at him and smiled. I'll help. Thor Odinson POV. I arrived at Asgard with Alex in my arms. The ones to receive me were my father, my mother, Loki, and Heimdall. What happened? Father asked, seemingly lost. Alex overexerted himself, he needs time to recover, I replied, looking at Loki, who was trying to hide a smile. He dead. After all, Alex went through, to smile at his suffering. You dare? I roared, my power cracking the Asgardian marble floor beneath me. Loki blinked, his smile turning into a fearful gaze as he hid behind Mother. Thor, control yourself, Odin spoke, putting both of his hands on my shoulders. You have more power now than you ever had before, and it will only continue to grow. That power fluctuates with your emotions. As a king you can't let those emotions control you. I was in control. The only out of control was Loki. I am in full control, Father, I spoke, glaring at Loki. Touch him, and not even Mother will save you, little brother. Loki nodded. Thor, Mother lamented. I didn't care. I had seen Alex bleed and suffer more than anyone should be allowed to. I failed to protect him, I would not fail again. What happened? Father asked once again. He battled a being no one else could have and came out victorious, I replied, walking past them, Sif at my side. She had remained silent during the exchange, simply standing by my side, ready to strike however tried to touch Alex with ill intent. Loki Odinson POV. Thor and I had always fought. But no matter what, Thor was always the same. A fool. However, today, his eyes frightened me. They promised pain. Lots of it. For the first time in my life, I was actually afraid of him. His power, his rage, everything was different. Don't mind Thor, baby, Mother spoke, drawing my attention. Was she blind? Had she not seen the murderous glare he had given me? Whatever happened, changed, Thor, Father spoke, taking a deep breath. That much was fucking evident. For the better, or for the worse? I dared to ask. Time will tell, Father sighed. I suppose he was right. But now, I want to know. What in the hell happened? Even Sif seemed different. They both seemed powerful, of course. Sif paled in Thor's comparison, but still. They both felt like monsters, compared to what I was used to. Well, time to start packing, honey, Father chuckled, snapping his fingers to change his royal clothes to a tropical set. Packing for what? Mother asked. Well, I retired. Thor is king now, Father replied, and I almost choked on my saliva. Same for Mother, as we both broke into a fit of coughs. What? I shouted. Thor is the All-Father now, Father sighed. He claimed the power of Asgard, and now he's the king. He never ever considered me a worthy successor. That was his plan all along, to give his golden child the throne, while I rotted in a corner. Why him? I asked, seething with anger. I had to know, why him, and not me? Father sighed, as if picking his words carefully. He never wanted the throne, all you ever did, was want the damned throne. There is more to life than that. That was all. No. That throne was supposed to be mine. But could I really face Thor now? Loki, you are shaking, Mother muttered, her arms wrapping around me in a hug. I guess I had my answer. I woke up in the middle of an unknown room, with a killing headache. I groaned, putting a hand on my head, as I tried to remember what had happened. Images of the Beyonder, Morpheus momentarily coming to mind. I won, I muttered, it almost felt like a lie. Even coming from my lips. But as unbelievable as it sounded, I remembered everything. Erasing Morpheus. Banishing the Beyonder. I can't believe I won, I chuckled in disbelief. Images of the self-recovery mode momentarily invading my mind. I frowned, trying to comprehend what was that. The gamer didn't have such a thing, not that I knew, right? Stats. Stats. Name equals Alex Walker. Race equals unknown. Title equals null. Occupation equals null. Level equals 450. EXP equals 0%/100%. HP equals 3,000,000/3,000,000. MP equals 3,000,000/3,000,000. STR equals 6,000, plus 3,600, equals 9,600. VIT equals 6,000. Definite equals 6,000. DEX equals 6,000. Int equals 6,000. Char equals 6,000. Wis equals 6,000. Will equals 6,000. Per equals 6,000. LUK equals 6,000. Stat points equals 0. Money, 22,108,742,952 $. What the fuck? What that hell happened to my stats? They had all doubled. But why? I frowned. This had probably something to do with the self-recovery mode. It was the only variable in this complicated equation. Sighing, I stood up from the bed I was laying in, and walked to the bathroom. Later I would have time to contemplate what had happened. Right now, I had to pee. In the bathroom, I reached the toilet and started doing my business, realizing there was a mirror in front of the toilet. Who the fucks wants a mirror in front of the toilet? I wondered. But as that thought settled, something caught my attention. My eyes. Holy cannoli, I muttered, shocked by what I was seeing in the mirror. My eyes. They looked like two pieces plucked out of the universe itself. It was mesmerizing, and very unsettling. I will need to use sunglasses now. Great, I sighed, as a sudden explosion inside my room was heard. Brother. It was no other than Thor. For the love of God. I'm peeing. I shouted, only for Thor to kick the door open as I desperately put my pants up, before he violently tackled me into a painful hug. I don't give a damn. Thor laughed. How long was I out? I asked, pushing him off me. 2 weeks, Thor informed me. I sighed, letting out a breath I didn't know I was holding. So, can you pee in peace? I asked, and Thor nodded with a wild grin, walking out of the bathroom. After my business was completed, I walked out of the bathroom to see Thor sitting in the bed I had woken up, beaming at me. Thor Odinson, King of Asgard LV448. What's with the? At the end of the levels now, curious, I clicked the. And a window notification popped right in front of me. After a number means. The level is being adjusted. Once the level reaches a stable figure, the will disappear. So the levels we had were still not there yet. How are you feeling, brother? Thor asked. I paused for a moment, considering what to answer. I feel amazing. Actually, it was the truth. I felt way better than I have ever felt. It was weird, and I could only hope it was a good thing. I'm glad. Thor beamed at my answer. So, I take I'm in Asgard? I asked as Thor nodded. I took upon myself to take care of you, Thor declared, punching his chest with his right fist. Sif guarded your room the first week, but I ordered her to rest, she wasn't sleeping much. I'm glad I nodded, deciding to go see her. So opening my minimap, I located Sif and opened a portal to her room. I'll wait here, Thor said, as I stepped through the portal. At the other side of the portal, Sif laid on her bed, sleeping soundly. I smiled at the sight. Approaching her, brushing her hair with my fingers as I softly whispered, "Good morning." 5 more Alex. Whatever Sif was about to say was cut short as she tackled me into the ground. It seemed that today was the National Asgardian Day of tackling me. "It's a me, Alex," I replied, doing a Mario impression. "How are you feeling? Are you okay? What happened to your eyes?" Sif started shooting, question after question. In order, "I'm feeling pretty good, so far I feel amazing, and I have no idea what happened to my eyes," I answered with a chuckle. "They look pretty," Sif smiled, letting out a tiny yawn while touching my face like she didn't believe I was here. "I suppose they are a bit too flashy for my taste, but who cares? I missed you," Sif sighed, putting her head on my chest, close to my heart. "Talking about missing, I have to go and see my daughters." I could only assume, me being here to avoid them knowing I was, otherwise indisposed. "Sure, let's go," Sif yawned. I shook my head, carrying her into the bed. "You will sleep, okay?" "I'm not tired," Sif yawned again. I gave her a look that said, "Really?" "Fine, but promise to come later, okay?" Sif sighed, snuggling into her bed once again. "I will," I nodded, giving her a kiss. "Love you," Sif smiled, closing her eyes. "Love you too," I smiled, opening a portal to my house. POV. It was finally happening. He was finally awakening. Finally, his power, his real power was coming into view, ready to set his enemies ablaze. "I still can't believe it," my companion muttered. "He banished the Beyonder, out of the universe, like. How?" I grinned, before bursting into a fit of laughter. "Who knows? You know more than you let on," my companion sighed. "Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Honestly, I was happy by simply observing things." "Relax, the kid is a good person," I chuckled, summoning a Pepsi. I was, after all, thirsty. Scratch that, I wanted a Coke. Days after waking up, I was still trying to understand what had happened. Not only the entire concept of having a self-recovery mode confused me, but what had happened after I woke up was even more troubling. My stats were different, my body felt different, everything was different one way or another. None of this makes sense. I paused as I sat in my bed. Again I chuckled. I really never managed to get a minute of peace. New quest created equals the reason behind the origin. Things happened, things changed, so it's up to you to figure out why, and the only way to do that is to figure out the origin of everything, including you. Objective equals find the origin. Rewards equals. I frowned as the quest appeared. Find the origin. Did my system had any idea how little that narrowed my search down? I sighed, opening my wallet to see a picture of Emily and Nat, smiling. I smiled. I don't care, I truly didn't. Who cares if I changed? I survived, and I came back to my family. I was here, I had won, I had prevailed. Who cared about the origin? I had my family right beside me, and that's all I cared about. That quest would have to wait. Wait for me to care, or have the time. Right now, I'm happy as I am. I smiled once again, standing up from my bed, dismissing the quest for now. Hello Odins.POV. Finally. The time had come. For thousands of years, I had laid dormant, waiting for the old bastard to kick the bucket. But instead of doing that, the old bastard had done something far better. He had stepped out of the throne, giving Thor the pathetic excuse of a brother I had, the force only the kings and queens of our people were worthy of wielding, the Odin force, or as others call it, the essence of Asgard. Without that power, the seal around my cage was weakening. Without that power, Odin didn't have enough power to hold me down. Not anymore. I was happy he had done that. With Thor on the throne, my escape was but a matter of time, and Odin's death at my hands, the cherry on top of that. Then, I would kill Thor, claiming what is mine. Soon I will have it all, I laughed, feeling my strength getting back, second after second. Odin Borson POV. A few thousand years ago, before humanity evolved, before I abandoned my views of conquest, Hela and I stood at the top of all beings. I was the king, and she was my executioner. I was proud of her. Of her ruthlessness. She was the perfect warrior, the perfect heir, I thought. So, I honored her with the highest honor I could bestow. I gave her the Odin force, the very essence of Asgard, to share with me. It was my way of saying, we are equals. Then, as time passed, I changed. And the things I once admired, like the spoils of war, now were sins in my eyes. Hela didn't change. She didn't understand my change. I tried to rein her in. But, I couldn't. I had created the perfect warrior, the perfect monster, the perfect executioner, and to top it all, I had given that perfect monster the power of kings and queens. I could have killed her. I was still far stronger than her. The old me would have. Without hesitation. But the me of that moment couldn't. She was my daughter, the girl that not so long ago used to call me daddy or papa. I had become weak. Sentimental. So, I sent the Valkyries after her. Their mission was to kill her, at least that's what I told them, when in reality they were but grains of sand, there only to buy me enough time to seal her. When all was done, and no Valkyries stood, I sealed my daughter, giving her a fate far worse than death. A sin that would forever haunt me. I had sealed my little girl. Because I had turned her into a monster and didn't want to deal with the consequences. I was never meant to be a king. I was born a warrior. I should have died a warrior. Instead, I had failed as a king. I had failed as a father. I had failed in everything outside war. Are you okay? My wife asked, placing her hand on my shoulder. I nodded. Another lie. When would I ever stop lying? When would I face the consequences and the judgment I deserved? Are you sure? She asked again. I smiled, giving her a hug. My days were numbered. I could feel her. My daughter. Her rage, her hate, her killing intent. She would break from her cage, in a few days. And she would come to kill me. I would not stop her. I eventually replied, once again fully acknowledging I was taking the easy way out, letting others deal with my mistakes. Loki. Hela. Thor. I had failed them all. Very well, Frigga sighed, if you don't want to tell me, I understand, but no, I'm here for anything. I chuckled, don't worry, I'm just being nostalgic. Being a king is all I had ever been, and now, well, I don't know what to do. We could dance, like humans do, Frigga smiled, giving me a kiss. I would love that, I replied, kissing her back. These were my last days on Earth, I would enjoy them, even if I didn't deserve it. Alex and Thor, they would deal with what I left behind, they were better prepared, more than I ever was, or would ever be. The Ancient One POV. Alex's power had increased immersively. His manner was more refined now, and his body was different. He was no longer human. What he was? Well, that was a mystery that still eluded me. But, if I had to guess, I would say he was the closest thing to a celestial this side of the universe had seen in eons. His body was brimming with cosmic energy now, almost as if he was entirely made out of cosmic energy. I doubted any mortal would ever pose a threat to him. Even the mad Titan himself posed little threat to him. "What are you, Mr. Walker?" I muttered with a sigh. My morning had started like any other. I woke up, I went to the kitchen to find Bucky cooking some breakfast, the girls were playing, everything was a-okay, and I was happy about it. Since the tournament, I had come to appreciate the normality of things. I craved this. A normal life. However, my normal, run-of-the-mill morning took a drastic turn when all of the sudden, a portal opened in my living room. From that portal, a woman walked through. A woman I immediately recognized without even reading her name and level above her head. Hella. Alex, she greeted me with a rather seductive smile, her eyes sizing me up. I blinked, taking a step forward. "What do you want?" I asked, narrowing my eyes at her, as I messaged Bucky to take the girls out of the house through our party link. From there, Emily knew what to do, open a portal to one of my safe houses, and wait. "Many things, amongst them, you," Hella replied, walking around my living room while looking around with a smile. I blinked once again. She wanted me. "I'm sorry, but what?" I asked, for a moment forgetting the possible implications of her being here would have on the canon timeline I knew. Hella smiled before taking a seat on my sofa. "Well, I want you, as in to be my king." "The fuck?" "Sorry, but as flattering as that sounds, I have a girlfriend," I replied, frowning while wondering, was Odin okay? If she was here, and my knowledge was accurate in some kind, then he had to be dead, right? "You mean that little girl?" Hella chuckled before rolling her eyes. "I'll take care of her later, so don't worry." "Over my dead body?" I growled, summoning my axes. Hella smiled. "That's sexy." "I won't let you do whatever you wish to do," I growled, staring at her. "I know," Hella nodded, "which is why I came here to stop you from interfering, at least momentarily." "Stop me?" "Enough talk," I snarled, jumping at her, swinging both of my axes down at her in a crossed slash. Sister of Thor or not, she was too dangerous to be left alive. "I agree, darling," Hella grinned, summoning a pair of blades to match my own attack. Our attacks clashed, the earth beneath us shattering as she pleasingly smiled, staring into my eyes. Hella Odin's.Her LV 441, powered by the Odin Force, incomplete. I was stronger than her. I just had to play this smart, and avoid letting her take any openings. For a few seconds, our weapons clashed with one another, strike after strike, creating shockwaves that destroyed everything around us. She was strong, very strong. What she lacked in level, she had in experience, battle-earned experience. Keeping up with her was proving to be a challenge. "You are everything I dreamed of." Hella grinned, baring her fangs at me like an animal would do to its prey. "Everything I was promised. I can't wait to make you mine," she declared, summoning hundreds of her blades around me, before bringing them all down at once. "You need to read a book about relationships," I scoffed, blasting all her blades away with a pulse of my mana. "We'll have time for that later, darling, therapy and all." Hella smirked, summoning a strange item to her hand. It looked like a lamp, a black one, with white flames inside. "The Lamp of Hell, legendary item." "The Lamp of Hell, an item found in the depths of hell only given to those able to withstand to this torturous world without losing themselves to it. This item is said to appear in the lake of suffering once every 1,000 years, and only reappears after the current instance of the lamp is used. After all, there can't be two lamps in existence at the same time. Once used, the lamp will seal the user's target for a duration between 1,000 years, 1 hour in hell. The duration depends on how strong the target is in relation to the user. Usage equals the user needs to think of the target with a clear image of said target in mind. After that, the lamp will do its thing, sealing the target away, no matter where said target is. This item can only be used once. After said use, the lamp will break. She wanted to seal me. I must apologize, truly, but if I were to let you interfere, you would undoubtedly stop me. Hella sighed, as the lamp broke on her hand, turning to dust. With my power as it is now, you are stronger than me, but once I claim my birthright from my little brother, things will change. So she wanted to claim the part of the Odin force Thor had. I will escape, I spoke, as ghostly hands started to wrap around me, sealing my strength. That seal won't hold me for long. I know. Hela grinned, walking towards me, stopping right in front of me. I only need a few hours to reclaim what is mine, so I'll be waiting for you in my rightful throne, ready to offer you a seat beside me, as King of Asgard. At this, she tried to kiss me, but I moved out of the way. Thor knows you are here, I grinned. I had, after all, already messaged Thor, the Ancient One, and Sif about the situation. Good. Hela chuckled, before turning her back on me. See you later, darling. Fuck you, I replied, as the lamp finished the sealing, with my body now being fully covered in ghostly hands that tightened their grip around me before dragging me to hell through a portal that had opened on the ground beneath me. Alex Walker POV, Hell Realm. By the time the ghostly hands had dropped me, I found myself in a very dark and desolate place. The place in question was damp, smelled like a morgue, which I supposed was to be expected considering where I was of all places. Status, I spoke. Sealed by the lamp in hell, 2 hours. For the next 2 hours, you will be unable to leave hell by any means. I suppose that's okay. Now I wonder, can I interact with the outside world? Time to check that out. Sighing, I took a seat on the ground and tried to connect to Clay, my elemental, and thankfully, I felt the connecting being established, as Clay allowed me to take control of his body. I grinned, looking at my destroyed apartment through Clay's eyes. Brother! Thor shouted through the party comm. Jesus fuck, don't scream, I complained, rubbing my ears in mild pain. Where are you, Alex? Sif asked, concern lacing her tone. Hell, Hela sealed me with a stupidly broken lamp, I sighed, scratching my head in annoyance. The lamp of hell, the Ancient One sighed, I have read about such item before, but never seen it work in person. My master did. I sighed, well, at the very least the sealing will only last 2 hours, so I guess it's not that bad. Remarkable, the Ancient One stated, I have read the spell within the lamp, can seal gods for up 1,000 years, and yet, the sealing spell can't hold you for more than that little amount of time. Of course, it can't hold my brother, he is mighty. Thor declared. What do we do with the weird lady? Bucky asked, drawing the attention back to the main subject. I still can't believe I have a sister, Thor muttered. Your dad sucks, Bucky snorted. Hey. Maybe, but still. Thor huffed. Children, we have to focus, we lost one of our heavy hitters, so we need to proceed with caution, the Ancient One sighed in a scolding tone. She's right now, our priority is stopping her, my guess is, she's going to kill your dad. If she wasn't already attacking Thor, then that was the logical second option, killing Odin. We'll deal with this, don't worry Mr. Walker. Hela made a grave mistake, underestimating the rest of us. Even if we can't defeat her, we can buy enough time until you can, the Ancient One assured, as I chuckled within the hellish realm of hell. Alex Walker POV, Hell Realm. Hell wasn't that bad all things considered. I mean, sure, it was plagued with thousands of cadavers moving around, and moaning ghosts and stuff, but beyond that, it kind of felt like I was in a really good haunted house. For the moment though, I was glad I was able to use clay as a medium of sorts to see TV and talk with the girls, who I was currently staying with. I mean, as much as it pained me to admit, none of my golems were near Hela's level, and trying to fight her using clay would be an utter waste of time, so I decided to stay back for the moment being, watching movies with the girls. Passing the time, waiting for the seal to come to its natural end. Daddy, Emily said, tugging Clay's arm a bit. Yes? I asked, turning around. It was weird talking through Clay, it felt like Discord but with extra steps. Are you really in hell? Emily asked. Kind of. I shrugged, making Clay shrug. What do you mean by kind of? Nat asked, grabbing a bag of Doritos from the minibar. Well, hell is one of the many realms of death. This one, however, is directly connected to the Norse gods, so in a way, you could say I'm in Norse hell, I answered, scratching my head, both mine and Clay's. Oh, Emily mouthed. For 2 hours? Nat asked. Yes, I nodded. A very bad lady sealed me because she knew she couldn't defeat me. In hell for 2 hours, that's a book title if I ever seen one. Nat chuckled. How does hell look? Emily asked. Well, I mused, kind of like a cave, a very damp one, with ghosts and zombies walking around, muttering things that only have a meaning for them, so, like Walmart. Ha! Nat snorted, like Walmart, good one Pops. I aim to please, I chuckled. Are you scared? Emily asked. I shook my head, patting her head. No baby, Daddy is the strongest here, nothing here can hurt, only annoy me. I'm glad, Emily smiled, hugging Clay as if it were me. Relax, short stuff, Nat chuckled. Dear old Dad has battled gods and such, zombies and ghosts are a downgrade from that. She had a point. I know, but I worry. Okay. Emily huffed. Well, don't worry baby, and let's watch a movie, I smiled, patting her head once again. It's my turn to pick the movie, Nat declared, jumping to the VHS library. It's not. Emily gasped. You picked the last movie. Nope, that was Dad, Nat smirked. I nodded, it was me. Then you picked the one before that one. Emily shot back, narrowing her eyes at Nat. We watched Balto, does that really sound like a movie I would put? Nat asked, raising an eyebrow. No, Emily sighed, accepting her defeat. Which means, it's my turn. Time to watch a scary movie. Nat declared with a happy smug smile, rummaging through the VHS tapes. Odin Borson POV. My day had come. Or so I thought. For as I waited for my end, my daughter to come and claim my life. Yao did the unthinkable, she had tattletale me to Frigga. Telling her I was waiting to be killed by Hela, the daughter she didn't know I had. Understandably, Frigga exploded in fury, slapping me so hard one of my teeth flew off my mouth like a projectile, before forcing me to teleport with them to a safe location. I didn't want to be saved. I deserved this. It was time to reap what I had sowed. And yet, both Yao and Frigga were adamant about my survival. with Frigga telling me I had no right to die, that the moment we married, my life was her own, and her life was my own, and I had no right to kill a part of her without her consent. As for Yao, she didn't share that sentiment, she simply said I had no right to take the easy way out. While their reasons didn't match, their goals did. Keeping me alive. She will stop at nothing, I spoke, looking at Yao before turning my gaze to Frigga. 2,000 years of marriage, and you never thought of telling me. Frigga muttered, giving me a pained look. It was my burden to bear, I replied. You bastard. Frigga sneered, slapping me once again, it wasn't yours alone. My babies, my children were also in this burden of yours, she wants to kill them too. And you never thought of telling me that my sons were in danger. I looked away, I couldn't bear to admit she was right. I told you, Yao spoke, her eyes on me, I told you all of your lies would catch up to you, old friend, but you never listened, she sighed, shaking her head in disapproval. I said nothing. Once this is done, you and I will have a talk, Odin. Frigga said, I love you, more than life itself, but I also love my babies, and more than I love you, so be prepared for our talk. I said nothing once again, deciding to simply nod. Hela Odin's daughter POV. I had underestimated Alex's reach. He had warned everyone of my arrival, therefore stopping me from killing Odin. I guess I would simply have to change targets, Thor first, Odin second. Sighing, I opened a portal to Asgard, basking in its shining glory as I walked through said portal with a satisfied smile, my world, my kingdom, therefore the taking. Hela Odin's daughter, someone spoke, daring to interrupt my moment. That's me. I turned around to see a man with a sword, looking at me, and you are? Himdall replied, you are to surrender, or to take on the All-Father's challenge. I blinked. The All-Father, he was talking about Thor, wasn't he? My brother, I assume. I chuckled, well, seeing as I come to take the crown from his lifeless head, surrendering doesn't quite appeal to me. I grinned, putting on my helmet while summoning two blades from it, before starting to walk towards him. Then the challenge it is. Himdall, however, didn't seem fazed by my display. I chuckled, challenge? Child, please, I won't play by anyone's rules, after all, why would I? This world is mine to do as I pleased. Thor is simply warming up my crown for me, like a good little brother. I didn't come here for no challenge, I came here to claim what was mine by birthright, or if that didn't work, by conquest right. The All-Father proposes a battle, the winner takes it all, including the power you seek within him, Himdall replied, and I stopped in my tracks, smiling. So Thor was aware we both had a half of the Odin force, halves that needed to be whole again. Do you accept the challenge? Himdall asked. I laughed, fine, why not? If anything will make my transition to power less bumpy, with less bodies to clean from the floor. Himdall frowned, so the man had other facial expressions beyond total lack of them, good to know. Then follow me, Himdall nodded. Alex Walker POV, Hell Realm. Hell wasn't that bad, all things considered. I mean, sure, it was plagued with thousands of cadavers moving around, and moaning ghosts and stuff, but beyond that, it kind of felt like I was in a really good haunted house. For the moment though, I was glad I was able to use clay as a medium of sorts to see TV and talk with the girls, who I was currently staying with. I mean, as much as it pained me to admit, none of my golems were near Hela's level, and trying to fight her using clay would be an utter waste of time, so I decided to stay back for the moment being, watching movies with the girls. Passing the time, waiting for the seal to come to its natural end. Daddy, Emily said, tugging Clay's arm a bit. Yes. I asked, turning around. It was weird talking through clay, it felt like Discord but with extra steps. Are you really in hell? Emily asked. Kind of. I shrugged, making Clay shrug. What do you mean by kind of? Nat asked, grabbing a bag of Doritos from the minibar. Well, hell is one of the many realms of death. This one, however, is directly connected to the Norse gods, so in a way, you could say I'm in Norse hell, I answered, scratching my head, both mine and Clay's. Oh, Emily mouthed. For 2 hours? Nat asked. Yes, I nodded. A very bad lady sealed me because she knew she couldn't defeat me. In hell for 2 hours, that's a book title if I ever seen one. Nat chuckled. How does hell look? Emily asked. Well, I mused, kind of like a cave, a very damp one, with ghosts and zombies walking around, muttering things that only have a meaning for them, so, like Walmart. Ha! Nat snorted, like Walmart, good one, Pops. I aim to please, I chuckled. Are you scared? Emily asked. I shook my head, patting her head. No baby, Daddy is the strongest here, nothing here can hurt, only annoy me. I'm glad, Emily smiled, hugging Clay as if it were me. Relax, short stuff, Nat chuckled. Dear old Dad has battled gods and such, zombies and ghosts are a downgrade from that. She had a point. I know, but I worry. Okay. Emily huffed. Well, don't worry baby, and let's watch a movie, I smiled, patting her head once again. It's my turn to pick the movie, Nat declared, jumping to the VHS library. It's not. Emily gasped. You picked the last movie. Nope, that was Dad, Nat smirked. I nodded, it was me. Then you picked the one before that one. Emily shot back, narrowing her eyes at Nat. We watched Balto. Does that really sound like a movie I would put? Nat asked, raising an eyebrow. No, Emily sighed, accepting her defeat. Which means, it's my turn. Time to watch a scary movie. Nat declared with a happy smug smile, rummaging through the VHS tapes. Odin Borson POV. My day had come. Or so I thought. For as I waited for my end, my daughter to come and claim my life. Yao did the unthinkable, she had tattletale me to Frigga. Telling her I was waiting to be killed by Hela, the daughter she didn't know I had. Understandably, Frigga exploded in fury, slapping me so hard one of my teeth flew off my mouth like a projectile, before forcing me to teleport with them to a safe location. I didn't want to be saved. I deserved this. It was time to reap what I had sowed. And yet, both Yao and Frigga were adamant about my survival. With Frigga telling me I had no right to die, that the moment we married, my life was her own, and her life was my own, and I had no right to kill a part of her without her consent. As for Yao, she didn't share that sentiment, she simply said I had no right to take the easy way out. While their reasons didn't match, their goals did. Keeping me alive. She will stop at nothing, I spoke, looking at Yao before turning my gaze to Frigga. 2,000 years of marriage, and you never thought of telling me. Frigga muttered, giving me a pained look. It was my burden to bear, I replied. You bastard. Frigga sneered, slapping me once again. It wasn't yours alone. My babies, my children were also in this burden of yours, she wants to kill them too. And you never thought of telling me that my sons were in danger. I looked away, I couldn't bear to admit she was right. I told you, Yao spoke, her eyes on me, I told you all of your lies would catch up to you, old friend, but you never listened, she sighed, shaking her head in disapproval. I said nothing. Once this is done, you and I will have a talk. Odin Frigga said, I love you, more than life itself, but I also love my babies, and more than I love you, so be prepared for our talk. I said nothing once again, deciding to simply nod. Hela Odin's daughter POV. I had underestimated Alex's reach. He had warned everyone of my arrival, therefore stopping me from killing Odin. I guess I would simply have to change targets, Thor first, Odin second. Sighing, I opened a portal to Asgard, basking in its shining glory as I walked through said portal with a satisfied smile. My world, my kingdom, therefore the taking. Hela Odin's daughter, someone spoke, daring to interrupt my moment. That's me. I turned around to see a man with a sword, looking at me. And you are? Himdall replied, you are to surrender, or to take on the All-Father's challenge. I blinked. The All-Father, he was talking about Thor, wasn't he? My brother, I assume. I chuckled, well, seeing as I come to take the crown from his lifeless head, surrendering doesn't quite appeal to me. I grinned, putting on my helmet while summoning 2 blades from it, before starting to walk towards him. Then the challenge it is. Himdall, however, didn't seem fazed by my display. I chuckled, challenge? Child, please, I won't play by anyone's rules, after all, why would I? This world is mine to do as I pleased. Thor is simply warming up my crown for me, like a good little brother. I didn't come here for no challenge, I came here to claim what was mine by birthright, or if that didn't work, by conquest right. The All-Father proposes a battle, the winner takes it all, including the power you seek within him, Himdall replied, and I stopped in my tracks, smiling. So Thor was aware we both had a half of the Odin force, halves that needed to be whole again. Do you accept the challenge? Himdall asked. I laughed, fine, why not? If anything will make my transition to power less bumpy, with less bodies to clean from the floor. Himdall frowned, so the man had other facial expressions beyond total lack of them, good to know. Then follow me. Himdall nodded. Thor Odinson POV. Alex had shared a lot with me about Hela, my sister. A talk I needed to have with my father. Anyhow, according to Alex, our power was evenly matched, but she outclassed me in battle experience. My main priority in all of this was keeping my people safe. So, I had issued a challenge, one I knew she wouldn't resist taking, for if she was anything like me because of our alleged blood relation, there was no other option in her mind but to accept. Besides, I wanted to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. After all, in all of Asgard, only I could face her. Sending Asgard's army to fight her, as father had done thousands of years ago, would only result in the waste of lives, a pointless endeavor. Brother, keeping the seat warm for me. Hela greeted me as she walked into the throne room, with Himdall closing the door behind her. As for Hela, she was sporting a seemingly happy smile, but even I could feel the wrath within me, like a fire ready to consume everything in her wake. I understand your anger, I spoke, standing up from the throne before walking towards. It's heavily justified, but even then, I can't let you rule. You only seek war for the sake of it, and I won't stand by it. You don't care for Asgard or its people, you only care for the thrill of conquest. A few years ago, she and I would have had a few things in common, amongst them, our love for war. But, unlike her, I had the good fortune of meeting my brother. He changed my perspective on things. You can't allow me. Hela spat, narrowing her eyes at me in rage. You don't have to allow me nothing, boy, I am the rightful ruler of Asgard. A born true warrior, I built this kingdom from the ground. Its people, everything you see belongs to me. I sighed, calling Mjolnir to me by extending my right hand to the side. You are not fit to rule, and it seems father was also not fit for the role. I sighed once again, grabbing Mjolnir as it landed in my hand. And you are fit for the role. Hela scoffed. No, I shook my head with a laugh. I'm much too immature, but I'm not alone, like you or father are. I have people to help me through it, and together we might just rule this kingdom right. You would let others tell you how to rule what is yours. Hela spat. You truly are pathetic. Perhaps I chuckled. Now, are you ready to battle me, Hela? Hela grinned, taking a step forward. Always. Let's then, but not here. One of us will win and will have to sit in the ruins left behind. Let's fight outside the kingdom, I offered, and Hela chuckled. I suppose rebuilding my castle would take valuable time. Time I can better use in other matters, Hela nodded, smiling. Good, I nodded. Everything was going fine so far. But just in case, Heimdall had orders to evacuate everyone in Asgard to one of Alex's safe locations, a large villa he had in Italy for vacations. Lead the way, little brother, Hela ordered. Sif POV. Thor's plan was simple. But it had its merits. First, we had to evacuate everyone out of Asgard, ensuring no one would die in the crossfire of their battle. Second, we would then need to regroup and help him. He had taken Alex's words to the heart. And had pushed aside his pride for the sake of victory. So, as of the moment, both Heimdall and the Ancient One were evacuating everyone in Asgard by the thousands per second. Do you think Thor will win? I asked the Ancient One. Hard to say. Thor was raised in a relatively peaceful time. Hela was forged through war, the Ancient One mused, index fingers pressed upon her lips. Both have a similar level of power, so in the end, it all comes to experience, so going by that, no, Thor will lose. It won't be an easy fight, but he will lose. I see, I sighed, worrying about the big oaf. Now, that's just the logical result of the battle based on the information we have, the Ancient One added, looking at me. There are still a bunch of factors we don't know about them, factors that could drastically change the course of the battle. Besides, Thor won't be fighting alone for long. For now, all he has to do is hold his ground long enough. I nodded. Even if she was more experienced in the art of battle, there was no way she would defeat Thor before finished evacuating the planet. The king won't be defeated, Heimdall reassured me. He better not, I chuckled. The Ancient One smiled, before turning her gaze to the forest where Thor had decided to have his battle with Hela. I'll keep the portal open, there is someone in there in dire need of a timeout. I nodded, unsure as to what she meant. Loki Odinson POV. My day started like any other, with me hating Thor and Alex, not sure which I hate more at this point. Anyway, everything had started just like any day. Then, an emergency evacuation was called, ordering every Asgardian on the planet to leave to Earth for the moment being. I was understandably befuddled by this. So, I took it upon myself to investigate. Finding a remarkable surprise. We had a sister. I had seen her talking with Thor. It had taken a lot of my power to avoid being caught by them as I spied on their little conversation. A conversation that was given me the pieces of a puzzle I didn't know existed. I grinned, barely containing my joy as Thor issued the challenge. The two would fight, one would die. If I played my cards right, all I would have to do to claim my rightful place on the throne would be killing the already worn-out survivor. Claiming the Odin force for me. Never before I had been so happy with father's negligent style of parenting. So here I was following the two of them to the forest using a high-class illusion to conceal my being, grinning, eager to see them kill each other. But then as I was about to take another step, all of the sudden, I felt a pull dragging me out of the forest with enormous power. Who dares? I hissed, turning around, breaking my illusion. I heard someone whisper behind me close to my ear, startling me as I jumped a few steps back. Seeing one of Alex's friends, the bald one, in front of me, smiling. If I wasn't mistaken, she went by the epithet of the Ancient One. You will pay for your insolence, I spat, summoning my daggers. Killing her would only take me a few minutes at most. If anything, she had done me a favor, giving me something to do while my siblings battled to the death. Oh, the Ancient One chuckled, in an amused manner. While normally I love to indulge children in their silly little games, I'm afraid I have no time to babysit you, so it's time out for you. Time out. Babysit. She dead. Alex might have defeated me. But you are nothing, and without a warning of any kind, like her casting a spell, I was falling into a seemingly endless void as the Ancient One smiled from above. You will remain here for a few hours. That should give you time to reflect on your actions, young man, she added, closing the portal, leaving me falling. Angry, I tried to teleport, but all that did was teleport me within this endless void. She had locked me in. I will kill you. The Ancient One POV. With Loki and his greedy little hands out of the way, there were no more obstacles in our way to ensure our victory. Where were you? Sif asked as I teleported back to the evacuation zone. Dealing with the problem child, I smiled, knowing I didn't need to elaborate any further. Loki, Heimdall and I said in one voice. What did you do with him? Sif asked. I teleported him to a dimension without mass, meaning he will be eternally falling, at least until I decide to release him, I replied with a small smile. Remember me not to make an enemy out of you, Sif chuckled. I chuckled back. So, how's Thor? Sif asked, turning to look at Heimdall. They just arrived at the location he selected. The battle has yet to start, Heimdall informed, concern lacing his tone. I looked at him, and the people coming to be evacuated. We had barely evacuated around 20% of all of Asgard. The rest, according to my estimates, would take an hour or so. Meaning Thor had to battle his sister for an hour without losing. How's everything going? Alex asked. Good, I replied, for the time being, that was the truth. I'm glad, Alex sighed, letting out a breath he probably didn't know he was holding. How long till the seal breaks? I asked. 1 hour and 30 minutes, Alex replied. I can, however, if you guys need, send my golems to Asgard. They should buy us time should we come to need it. I nodded, taking note of that. Be ready to send them, just in case. I will, Alex replied without missing a beat. By the way, be on the lookout for Loki. This is the type of opportunity his greedy ass would not let pass by. I laughed. Already taken care of, Mr. Walker. He's currently falling into the void, and will continue to fall, until I feel like releasing him from that dimension. Alex laughed. Oh my god, you are my idol. I know, I chuckled. I am the best, no need to say it out loud. Humble much? Bucky snorted. What can I say? Mr. Walker recognizes greatness when he sees it, I smiled. He does, I mean, look at his girlfriend. Sif joined to the conversation. I almost miss Thor, Bucky sighed. I heard that. And will never forget that. Thor replied with a teasing chuckle. Thor, keep your head on the battle please, Alex scolded. Sorry, Thor replied. By the way, the east side of the capital is fully evacuated, Bucky informed. The center still has people ranging in the thousands, I reported. We just have to keep this pace on. Our main objective is ensuring the people's safety. Exactly, Alex agreed. By the way, golems are ready for deployment, so are waiting for command. I still don't understand why she sealed you if said seal doesn't do shit, Bucky commented. To avoid fighting Thor and Mr. Walker at the same time, I replied. The seal was not meant to actually seal him, but to limit his interaction with this battle as little as possible. As experienced as Hela was, not even her had the power to take on Thor and Alex at the same time, especially considering Alex is stronger than her. By keeping me here, she has a better chance. Granted, I don't think she was aware her seal would only last 2 hours. I think she was expecting a bit more time, sealing-wise. Alex sighed. I agree, I nodded. She must have assumed the lamp of hell would seal you for at least a day. Sadly, she miscalculated by a big margin, which works for us. The good thing about fighting people stronger than you, or with big egos, was that they always overestimated your capabilities, in turn giving you a great tactical advantage. Thor Odinson POV. I stood face to face with Hela. Are you ready? Hela smiled. This is getting rather boring, all the walking, all the talking. At least you got rid of the little roach that had been following us for a while. For a moment I almost thought you wanted to assassinate me by stabbing me in the back, but that didn't feel like you. She reasoned with a sigh. No, that was Loki, our younger brother, I replied, tightening the grip on my hammer. He wants the crown, just you like, but for different reasons. For Loki, getting the crown will prove he has a place in this world. Oh, the little frost giant, Hela chuckled. I had almost forgotten about him. Little frost giant. What did you say? I asked. Oh, you didn't know, Hela sighed, cocking her head to the side ever so lightly, a sadistic smile perking on her face. Loki isn't our brother, he's but another trophy the old man collected to stroke his ego, the prince of the frost giants. Funny, isn't it? In a way, he was born to rule. But father took that from him, like he took it from me. You lie. I barked. I refused to believe that. Am I? Hela smirked at me. Do you really believe after meeting me, such a thing to be out of father's modus operandi? I mean, really think about it. He sealed his only child in a world of suffering for thousands of years, his heir before you came. Do you really think of him not being capable of such cruelty? I assure you, taking the little frost giant is one of the easiest to swallow things he has done in his lifetime. Believe me, I learned from him how to be how I am. Could she be right? I just couldn't bring myself not to believe her. After everything I had discovered from father in the last few hours, anything was possible with him. Hela grinned, and there it is, the look of shock realization in your face, finally understanding how big of a monster our old man is. Be that as it may, it all ends now. I will burn the lies that father has fabricated, I declared, getting into position to start the battle. And just like that, you are way better than Odin himself, but sadly for you, I'm better than you, Hela shot back, summoning 2 long swords from her helmet. Father may have started this, but I will finish it. No more his sins would haunt the people of Asgard. For I was now the king, one that aimed to be better than those that came before me. We'll see, I roared, dashing towards her, clashing my hammer against her sword, creating a massive shockwave of electricity around us. That weapon was mine before it was yours, Hela grinned, her blades clashing with Mjolnir. Our faces inches apart. You will never defeat me with that. I said nothing, blasting her away with the clap of the thunder, for, in the end, nothing mattered, for I would do what I must. Thor Odinson POV. Hela and I clashed, our weapons meeting each other with earth-shattering strength. Is this all? King. Hela laughed, summoning a few dozen blades behind me before said blades plunged at great speeds towards me. I said nothing, jumping into the air before slamming Engineer against the soil beneath my feet, landing in one knee, creating a shockwave of electricity to blast her blades away, as I pushed myself forward, swinging my hammer at her face. "Is any of this power yours?" Hela spat, parrying my attack with a swing on her blade, forcing my swing out of her way. I gnawed her once again, charging at full speed. However, Hela simply stood there in a defensive stance yet relaxed stance, parrying my first blow with her left sword, before twirling around cutting me on ribs with both blades. The cut wasn't deep, but it had hurt. Knowing a follow-up attack would come next, I turned around just in time to dodge a pair of her blades flying towards my face, inches away from dealing lethal damage had I not reacted in time, before attempting to counter with a lightning bolt aimed at her feet, which failed when Hela created a giant blade in front of her that protruded from the ground, blocking the attack like a lightning rod. Alex was right, this would not be easy. Taking a deep breath, I looked at Hela before exhaling, moments before she dashed towards me with the intention of continuing our battle, summoning hundreds of blades from every conceivable direction in the process, before delivering a horizontal kick that I blocked with my arm, as several blades blasted towards me the moment her leg made contact with my arm. Realizing what she was doing, I grabbed her leg and threw her into the sky as I jumped back, scarcely evading the blades that plunged into the ground I once stood, some of them cutting me as they flew by. "Not bad," Hela commented, turning around in the air, before landing on her feet as if nothing had happened. Without another word, Hela was back on me, delivering a barrage of powerful attacks, each set sending more blades my way, making it harder and harder to dodge her advances. It pained me to admit but I was starting to be overwhelmed by Hela's fighting style, but I didn't mind, for now, I would only buy time, and had avoiding the onslaught of incoming blows, as I waited for my friends to come and aid me in battle. "Show me your power, Thor." Hela laughed, blurring out of sight, reappearing in front of me, diving her blade deep into my stomach. Spitting blood, I grabbed her arm, the one holding the blade, before I summoned my mightiest lightning with a smile. "Don't you dare thinking you can touch me without repercussions," I barked with a smile, as my attack struck us both in a massive blinding explosion, that sent the both of us flying, both in opposite directions. Once the smoke from my attack cleared, Hela and I stood, both seemingly unharmed, though I was sure I had taken more damage than her, but not nearly enough to make me quit this battle. "That's better," Hela smiled, her wounds healing at an alarming rate, almost like Alex's. "That's your domain, right? 1,500 years, and you barely can tap into it. What a shame. If you knew how, this battle would be a lot more interesting," she sighed, summoning 2 blades, one for each hand. My domain. Alex had talked about that. So had Sif. Both said I had yet to tap into my godly domain in its entirety, with Sif being the living proof of that. During the tournament she had tapped into that power, awakening her true Asgardian strength. I had gained this power I now wielded because Father had stepped out of the throne. "Now, shall we resume our battle, dear brother?" Hela grinned, starting to walk towards me. "Let's," I nodded, doing the same before we both blurred out of sight, resuming our battle, clashing in the middle, once again our weapons meeting with equal strength. "You are too green," Hela spoke, summoning a few dozen blades beneath the ground I was standing. Seeing this, I jumped, only getting a few cuts on my legs as the blades emerged from the ground. Had I stayed there any longer, I would have been impaled. Pushing those thoughts aside, I raised my hand and charged Engineer with all the power I could muster, before hurling it at her, blasting her several hundred feet underground before I commanded Engineer to release the power I had charged within it, creating a massive explosion that seemed to eat the entire forest away. good, but not good enough. Hela laughed, her body charred almost to the bone, before she hurled Mjolnir back at me, her body healing all wounds in a matter of seconds. I frowned, catching Mjolnir with one hand before I descended to the ground. Her regenerative powers were a problem. I have to admit, Hela chuckled, you are way better than I expected. I suppose that has to be a lot with the Odin force you now wield, and Alex's training, she sighed. I nodded, I owe my brother a lot. I was not ashamed to admit it. Yeah, you do, Hela smiled, he's the king that will stand by my side in conquest. I frowned at that. Alex would never be with you, I shot back, even if you somehow win this battle and claim Asgard for yourself, he would never love you. I know the type of man my brother is. Hela scowled before her expression turned into an amused one. Maybe not at the beginning, but he will have no other choice but to take his rightful place at my side. That's if he wants a few certain people to be spared. After all, as a king he would have the right to save as many as he wants. She was threatening the girls in an unspoken manner. If you think I will allow you to touch a hair of my niece's hair, you are utterly mistaken. I growled. My, how protective of them, Hela chuckled, index finger pressed upon her lips. But you can't stop me, even if you wanted to. I grinned, maybe not alone, but Alex has formed a pretty odd family of his own, a family I'm a part of, a family you can actually rely on, and mark my words, Hela, this family will eliminate you. I declared, pointing at her with my hammer. Bold words, for a dead man, Hela sighed, shaking her head in a disappointed manner. I say the same, Hela, I shot back, before blurring out of sight to restart our battle. Each second I survived on this, was an extra Asgardian getting away from my father's mistakes. Each second I battled, was a second closer to Alex being freed. I was not worried. For I was not fighting alone. And above all, my allies were mighty, just like me. Alex Walker POV Hellrealm. One more hour, I would be free from this hella boring place, pun not intended. Getting sealed was an annoyance, and a big threat, one I would invest time and effort on learning how to counter once the whole hella situation was solved once and for all. Getting sealed, even if it was for a few minutes, was a terrible, terrible outcome. The amount of damage someone could do during that time was untold and unforeseeable, therefore, this was a weakness I would fix immediately. Daddy, I heard Emily say, as I closed my eyes to connect to Clay to see what the girls were doing. Yes? I asked, tilting Clay's head. Are we winning? Emily asked. So far, we are in a tie, I replied, selecting my words carefully as I spoke them. Can you beat her? Nat asked. I nodded, both mine and Clay's head. I know for a fact I can defeat Hela, something she herself knows very well too, which is why I'm here, in hell. Of course, that was counting Hela as she was now. If she defeated Thor, and claimed the other half of the Odin force, well, things would get rather grim for me, in the prospect of battle. It was a smart move on her part, Nat sighed, slumping into the bed. Taking out the strongest fighter, alongside the support, is the most basic strategy when fighting a group of people alone, she sighed. Yes, I nodded. As much as I hated Hela for sealing me, it had been a smart move on her part. Alone I would have defeated her eventually, but with Thor in the mix, she wouldn't have lasted more than a few minutes at best. Well, I'm sure Uncle Thor can kick her butt, Emily smiled. Same here, kiddo, Thor will surprise her, in more ways than one, I chuckled. The Thor that battled her during the original timeline, and this Thor were two entirely different individuals. This Thor was leagues above the canon timeline, Thor, I dare say even more mature in essence. The Ancient One POV. The evacuation was almost done, and so far Thor had kept his ground against his sister, meaning everything was going according to plan. A wolf. I heard someone scream, soon followed by the indisputable howl of a wolf, one several times bigger than it had any right to be. Turning around in the direction of the scream, I watched as a few Asgardians ran towards the evacuation zone in panic, the massive wolf following them close behind. I knew that wolf, from the legends. Fenris, the mother of wolves. Quite frankly, very underwhelming. I expected her to be bigger. But never mind that, how had she been resurrected? I frowned, summoning a few hundred chains around the wolf, binding her in place for the moment, as I used my mind to scan the castle. Within, an army of undead were marching towards us, meaning whatever had resurrected the wolf, had also resurrected Hela's personal troops. But who? Focusing on that task, I filtered every undead out of my mind and sight, leaving an empty castle with a single Asgardian holding the eternal flame. Sif, I asked, without breaking my connection to the castle. Yes. Sif replied. Do you know of any Asgardians that happen to be bald, with a tattoo on his head that resembles two claws? I asked, before adding, he wields a large two-handed battle axe. Yes, Sif nodded, sounding confused at my sudden question. Well, he just betrayed everyone on this planet, I sighed, shaking my head. No, Heimdall muttered, joining the conversation. I should have seen it, but why would he do such a thing? I have no idea, but more than not, power is involved in the answer, I replied, keeping my eyes on him. It would seem that after all, we would actually need the golems Alex had prepared. He was always looking for a chance to grow, but to betray his king, his people. Sif muttered, her eyes full of pain, before all of that transformed into a murderous look that leaked killing intent so thick it was almost palpable. I will kill him. That for later. In the meantime, I sighed, connecting with Alex. It's time, we need your golems. Sending them over, Alex replied immediately, as several portals opened in front of where the evacuation zone was, with legions of golems walking out of them. Can't open many portals without being there physically, but I will keep them coming, so don't worry. That solved the problem the undead army of Berserkers represented. I also gave you guys command of them, so just order them around, and they will obey, Alex added. I assume something is coming because the streets are being flooded by your golems, Bucky said, joining the conversation. A bastard betrayed us, and brought back to life Hela's army, Sif spat in anger. A massive army of undead, unrelenting soldiers. Thankfully for us, golems are the same, I smiled, connecting astral sight once again back to the castle. The army was almost outside the castle. Once they broke out of there, the streets of Asgard would be submerged in a song of war. Fucking bastard, Bucky growled. I will kill him once all of this is over, Sif replied, her tone cold, leaving no room for argument. He's mine, and unless Thor asks to kill him by his own hands, he will die by mine. Here they come, I said, feeling the ground shake as the army rushed towards like a natural phenomenon, destroying everything in their wake. We still haven't evacuated the west side, Heimdall stated, worry lacing his tone heavily. Go there, I will send Bucky and a few hundred golems with you, I replied, to which Heimdall nodded without a question, running to save his people. Bucky, go to the west side and take as many golems as you need. Alex gave us command of them, they will obey anyone within the party, I told Bucky. Roger that, Bucky replied. Well, all that is left is to evacuate the rest of the people. Before moving to help Thor, I spoke, looking at Fenris, as she started to break chain after chain, growing in size in the process, red smoke seemingly coming out of her body. I sighed, I had no time to walk the dog. Sorry, but I can't play with you, I smiled, creating an eldritch circle beneath the beast before my bindings broke, teleporting him to a very similar dimension to the one I had Loki trapped in. Dealing with that wolf the way she had to be dealt with to kill her would burn too much energy I required to assist in everything around him, including but not limited to battling Hela. Thor Odinson POV. Let's dance, little brother. Hela grinned, summoning a few hundred blades around me. Seeing this, I began to move forward, one step at a time before blasting once again towards her. Grinning, Hela commanded her blades to attack, but with a pulse of electricity, I burned all her blades to dust, before swinging my hammer at her. Smiling, Hela moved her hand forward, stopping my attack with the palm of her hand, as, behind me, a large massive blade appeared a few hundred meters above me, before plummeting towards me at a blinding speed. However, I decided to reply to her gesture in kind. Merely stretching out my arm like she had done, stopping her attack. Before sending an energy pulse through the entire blade that caused the blade to break into many small pieces that rained above us. You are learning. Hela smiled in delight, the ground cracking beneath her, as her energy fluctuated in excitement before she kicked me away with a powerful kick, right away forming another massive blade in front of her, but unlike all her other blades, this once felt different. Somehow, knowing I would not be able to dodge that particular blade, I crossed my arms in front and braced the incoming attack, that as I had foreseen moved faster than my eye could perceive. One moment the blade was hovering above the ground, the next it was pushing against my arms with violent force. In a clash of power, my legs dug deep into the ground as I recoiled under her attack, before blasting the sword into pieces with the clap of a thunder. Grinning, Hela rushed at me, summoning several blades around me, +2 for her hands, before our weapons once again clashed together. I'm impressed you survived that attack, though not unscathed, Hela chuckled, looking at my bleeding arms. It will take more than that to stop me, I roared, slamming my fist into her face before kicking her away. I sure hope so, Hela laughed, turning in the air, positioning herself to land on her feet. I growled, charging Mjolnir with my power before blasting at Hela, thunderbolt after thunderbolt. However, Hela started to, for the lack of another word, dance around my attacks, dispelling each and every single thunderbolt with a single swing of her blade each, while at the same time closing the gap between us. Seeing this, I swung my hammer downwards at her, to which Hela grabbed my wrist before proceeding to throw me high into the air, putting me upside down in the air, before pulling down my arm, slamming me head first into the ground with ground-shattering strength, all in one flawless motion. With no time to process the pain, or what had happened, I pushed myself to the side using my lightning to gain immediate momentum, barely dodging as hundreds of small blades emerged in the location she had just slammed me. Bravo, Hela clapped, as I jumped to my feet. My nose was bleeding, and so were my arms, and I was 60% sure I had a rib or two broken after that attack. Things were starting to weigh on me, little by little. It's commendable, really, surviving so long against me. It's not an easy task, Hela complimented, before sighing, though, seeing such resistance, even though is futile, pains me. I scoffed, spitting some blood to the side. I had had worse. Alex kicked my ass to the brink of death more than once, I grinned, pointing my hammer at her. This is nothing compared to our sparring matches. This is nothing compared to an enemy I faced moments before becoming a king, so bring it on. I challenged with a roar, blood spluttering from my mouth to the ground. I'm glad my future king lives to the expectations I had of him, Hela smiled, holding one of her blades close to her heart. I suppose I have to step up my game if I wish to impress you then. She chuckled, swinging her blades around as if to stretch her muscles. I got into position. After that absurdly fast blade attack, I would not assume I can dodge her attacks. Bring it on. I guffawed. After all, I just had to hold for a bit longer, and my friends would come to help me end this. As you wish, Hela grinned, hurling her blades at me, but her movements didn't stop there. Each swing of her empty hand would send a blade my way, a blade that would materialize immediately with each movement of her hand. Taking a firm stance, I started to spin Engineer in front of me while also charging it with power, creating a shield against her blades that crashed and broke upon impact. Smiling, Hela continued, her motions changing. For a very brief second, I didn't know what change would a different set of motions bring, but then, I realized as I felt her energy span across the field, now I would have to expect attacks from every conceivable direction. Realizing this, I threw my hammer to the sky, holding to the leather strap of Engineer to flight with it, narrowly avoiding a few blades that emerged from the ground and from the trees around me. Unfortunately, I had not managed to dodge the attack in its entirety, with some of the blades having managed to cut me in multiple places. Don't sleep on me now, Hela smiled, as a shadow appeared above me, then one more, and more and more, until the entire visible sky was covered in blades of varying sizes. I looked at her in horror, realizing what else she was cooking. The entire ground as well was now a field of swords ready to pierce me. This attack was unavoidable. I had to either destroy it with my power or find a way to tank it. Let's see how you deal with that, Hela smiled, snapping her fingers, a motion that seemed to order all the blades, both those in the sky and the ground, to blast at me, all at once. I grinned, baring my fangs at Hela as I laughed. I will show you. I was not ready to die. Not by a long shot. I owe my people that much. So, mustering the power I could, I charged my movie with it, ready to explode at command. This would not kill me, it would hurt me like hell, but it would ensure a better defense when I used it, repelling the blades. However, before the blades reached me and I activated my last resort defense, several portals opened all around me, caging me in a circular prison of portals. What a nasty attack! That voice, the old lady had finally arrived. Hell yes. Leave, Hela ordered in an irritated tone, as the portals around me started to close. I don't recall ever following your orders, the Ancient One chuckled, giving a potion, one of Alex's. I grinned, taking the potion with a beaming smile. I almost kicked the bucket there, I laughed, drinking the potion, as Hela watched in shock how all my wounds started to heal. Have one of this too, the Ancient One smiled, giving me a blue potion, the ones used to restore energy or mana, as Alex said. Don't mind if I do, I nodded, snatching the potion of her hands before drinking it. How's everyone? The evacuation is almost complete, so in a few moments, the rest should join us, the Ancient One replied. So this is your honor as a king? Hela spat, clearly overtaken by anger at the moment. Honor? It seems you misunderstood me, Hela. I didn't come here for honor, but to kill you, I replied, my tone cold and piercing. Besides, are you really in any position to talk about honor? The Ancient One smiled, tilting her head to the side. After all, you sealed Alex out of fear he would stop you. If anything, you are the honorless one. Hela laughed, seemingly returning to her usual demeanor. Very well then, the amount of roaches won't change a thing, so fight me to your heart's content. If you insist, the Ancient One replied, her demeanor doing 180 turn, as she glared at Hela with an icy, borderline heartless look. Don't start complaining later on. Alex Walker POV, Hell's Realm. 30 minutes to escape this hellhole. Pun not intended. At the very least, I was not stressed with the entire Hela situation. I trusted my allies to take care of her in a swift manner. I believed in them. Needless to say, were I to be released before they defeat her, I will join them, telling that crazy-ass Asgardian princess a lesson or two. West Side evacuated. Bucky reported through the chat. Understood, Sif replied, pausing for a moment. The undead army of berserkers have yet to breach our defenses. Both Asgardian soldiers and golems are making quick work out of them. Bucky, I spoke, connecting to the chat. When the time to battle Hela calls, do not engage in close combat, keep your distance. She excels in close combat, having physical strength similar if not superior to Thor's. Which was to say a lot. Thor was fucking Thor, but at least he looked strong. Hela was a very slim woman, having no visible muscles that would warn you of such strength. Don't worry, I won't, Bucky replied, before taking a deep breath. I will take a few of your golems with me when I start mobilizing there. I have a feeling they will come in handy. I'll do the same, Sif agreed. It's best to be prepared for the worst. I nodded. That was a good way to plan for battle, preparing for the worst possible case scenario. I sighed, annoyed I wasn't able to help them more. Wait a minute. I might not be able to fight like I'm used to with a golem, but I can support them. Many of my golems have mostly supported-based abilities I embed in their formula, with skills like heal, mana pool. Sure, I would not be able to fight, but I would be able to command my golems from hell as if playing Warcraft or Age of Empires. I grinned. I'll command some golems to help you guys out, I said, smiling from cheek to cheek. How many can you command at once? Sif asked. I mused, considering the distance, the little delay in the connection from this world. My max would be around a dozen at a time if I plan to use them like individual characters and not an army with simple commands like attack undead and stuff, which so far was what I had done. 12, 13 if I really push it, I answered. I assume you mean control in a more advanced manner, right? Bucky concluded. Yes, I confirmed, happy with his deduction. Very well. That will help us a lot, Bucky replied, exhaling in relief. Very well then, I will proceed to handpick my golems for this mission, I informed them, before disconnecting the chat to concentrate myself on the task at hand. Hela Odin's her POV. Thor matched my power blow to blow. While the Ancient One filled the gaps in Thor's experience, both making the battle harder than it had any right to be. I frowned, as Thor swung his hammer downwards aiming at my head. Easily enough, I raised my right arm, blocking his attack with my blade, before trying to thrust my other blade into his heart. However, before my blade could reach his chest, eldritch chains wrapped around my arms, pulling them back with violent sudden force, giving Thor the perfect window to slam his hammer in my face without any resistance, breaking more than a few bones upon contact, before he blasted me away with a lightning bolt at point blank. This is getting tedious, I spat. The attack had scorched my entire face almost to the bone, and some of my shoulders, leaving a burnt leathery smell around the battlefield. But, weirdly, it's also getting fun, I grinned. My wounds already, for the most part, completely healed, save for a few spots in my face that still showed some bone and muscles. I'm glad you are enjoying your last day in this world as much, the Ancient One smiled, clapping her hands together. Hilarious. I might keep you as a jester when all is said and done. You are truly a one-woman show, I smiled, cracking my neck. You already lost Hela, your army is being slaughtered as we speak, and with my allies here, victory is a given, Thor declared, brimming with confidence. I really had no idea how Alex could tolerate such an idiot. You really think I depended on an army to win my wars? I scoffed, summoning multiple blades around me. I conquered worlds alone, erasing every living being on the planet with nothing but my bare hands before I even turned 16. Children, You have no idea what I'm capable of. Nor you have any idea what we are capable of, Thor barked with a grin. He truly was an insufferable brat. I'm almost glad Odin sealed me away. Had I had to spend 1500 years with him, I would have probably gone insane. Well, it's time to. I stopped, as I felt something slowly pierce my head from the back to the front without stopping, leaving a small hole in the middle of my eyebrows, a wound that healed in less than a second as I frowned, looking at what had attacked me, a small projectile the size of a finger from what I could tell. Well, that was just rude, as I said. 3 more shots were taken, however. This time, I grabbed mid-trajectory before they could do any damage, before giving them a closer look. Bullets, so now a long-range fighter joins the party. Interesting. Thor Odinson POV. Bucky was already here, keeping his distance from Hela, a very wise choice. He had informed us through the chat, he would focus on disturbing her, to affect the flow of her combat as much as possible. Which was a welcomed advantage at this point. Her regeneration was annoying. Borderline unfair. I guess that's why her realm is the realm of death. Well, now it's 3 against 1, Hela chuckled, blurring out of sight momentarily, before appearing right behind me, swords ready to end my life. Grinning, I twisted around as fast as I could, blocking Hela's attack with Mjolnir, before hurling my hammer at her. Unfazed by Mjolnir coming at her, she once again extended her hand, stopping the hammer with shocking ease, barely using the palm of her hand. You are overly reliant on this thing, let's fix that, she grinned, holding the hammer tight, and soon after, Mjolnir started to vibrate violently, before she looked at me with a smile, squishing Mjolnir under her hand into pieces. It all happened so fast, neither I or the Ancient One had any time to react. Now, I hope you fight without your hammer, Hela grinned, blowing the dust of Mjolnir's remains from her hand in a mocking manner with her mouth. For a moment, I found myself at a loss for words, looking at the weapon that had accompanied me for so long, turned into common debris. I wasn't gonna lie, it hurt seeing my trusted weapon become nothing. Don't worry, I shot back, slapping my face with both hands at the same time, something that seemed to surprise Hela for the briefest of moments. With or without hammer, you will fall today. I beamed. Right now it was not the time to mourn. Alex Walker POV, Hell's Realm. After selecting the golems I thought best for this mission, I mobilized them to where the battle was raging. 3 support-based golems, 5 tank-based golems, and 4 attack-based support golems. I had handpicked them, around my roster of golem, with them being the best of each category particularly. As for what golem I would connect to see and talk, well, I decided to connect to a supporting one that had the passive ability of resurrecting after death twice. Why had I picked a support golem to be my main? Well, it was as to be more focused on controlling them, than in the battle itself. I didn't have the luxury of fighting and controlling units at the same time. I will position the golems to engage Hela at a distance, I said to Sif, who was currently by my side, commanding 20 golems. Understood, I will join them right now, to offer as much support as possible. Sif nodded. Don't be a hero, I said, putting the massive hand of my support golem on her shoulder. In 10 minutes I'll be free from this world, so try not to give me a scare until then. I tried to chuckle to alleviate the situation, but found myself unable to do so. Don't worry, Sif smiled, putting her hand over the golem's hand in a reassuring gesture. I'm not you, so don't worry. In this relationship, you are the crazy one. I laughed. She had a point. Very well, but still, take care, I repeated. I promise, Sif nodded, kissing the golem's hand before rushing into battle with her small group of golems to assist Thor, Bucky, and the Ancient One in their battle with Hela. Seeing her go, I slapped my real face back into the focus, before starting to position the golems in the positions I wanted them to be for this battle. In short, my golems would make a pentagram formation, attacking and healing from afar as I kept tabs on Hela's moves on from a close point of view. As for my tanking golems, they would dive into the battle soaking as much damage as possible. Their mission was basically keeping my friends alive for the next 10 minutes. After that, I would personally kick her ass if she was still alive by then. She keeps healing, just like you, Alex, Bucky said through the chat. I think to kill you either have to destroy her entire body at once or destroy Asgard, I replied while checking on the map how my golems were doing, positioning-wise. Why would destroying Asgard kill her? Thor asked, sounding scared at the prospect of his home planet being blown away. I can answer that. The Ancient One sighed, you both have the power of the Odin Force, each one holds a half of said power, and because of that, because of the incompleteness of said power, you are both connected to Asgard, the planet as a whole through the Odin Force, the piece you both have. Now, this means that until one of you completes this power, making it one again, you two and your lives will depend on the state of Asgard. This also explains why the both of you are stronger in Asgard. It's mostly because your life forces are mostly trapped in here, waiting for the other half of the power to complete yours or her ascension to the throne. I'll be damned, I didn't know about that at all. I mean, I did know Hela was stronger in Asgard, and that her power never stops growing in there, but the rest, I didn't know. I guess this explains why the Ancient One was so adamant about having this battle on Asgard of all places. She, one, knew Hela would not take the bait outside Asgard, and two, that Thor would be at his best there too. I see, Thor grumbled. Don't worry buddy, we will get you that other half, I assured him, trying to sound as supportive as possible. Of that I have no doubt. Thor beamed, going back to his golden retriever-like persona. Smiling, I checked my map, seeing every single golem in position. I grinned, ordering them to start my plan, as I moved closer to Hela, being as stealthy as possible, ensuring not to be noticed. I wanted to be close enough to her to see her, but not close enough for her to detect me as a threat. Hela Odin's her POV. More and more insects kept joining the fray, making my life a bit more difficult, fighting so many competent individuals while at the same time dealing with ranged attacks from multiple directions, and golems swarming at me like bugs. Well, what can I say? I was having a relatively hard time fighting them all. If anything, it was annoying more than troubling. Of all the creatures trying to attack me, only two represented a moderated threat, Thor, and the Ancient One. The rest were simply defenseless lambs waiting for the slaughter. As I pondered over that thought, I felt someone above me, overflowing with the intent of killing me, so much even a child could have felt it. Turning around, I grabbed the attacker's blade with my bare hands, pulling her closer. How life keeps on giving me just what I want. Hello, Sif, I grinned, her face inches away from mine. Go to hell. Sif growled, dropping the sword before slamming her fist on my face. Been there, done that, I smirked, returning her the favor, by punching her away. Sadly, the Ancient One cushioned most of the blow, evolving the little whore on her magic, reducing the desired effect of my punch to around a 5% of the power I had originally thrown in that attack. Sorry, for a moment there I thought I could get a fast one on her. Sif apologized, unsheathing her backup sword from her back in a singular motion. This is pointless, I sighed, summoning thousands of blades above us, covering the entire sky in a menacing picture of black. You will never, ever defeat me. The Ancient One smiled. We only have to keep fighting you for the next 5, 6 minutes, 4 minutes, before you learn how fucked you are. At this she turned to Thor, a thoughtful look on her face. Is that how kids say it these days? I have heard Alex say it. Thor nodded with a wide smile. 4 minutes. Did they really think anything would change in that time? Hilarious. I suppose I will indulge in your game, I chuckled. No matter how much they tried, as long as I was on a squad, and Alex wasn't here, I would come on top. Alex Walker POV, Hell's Realm. 3 more minutes, and I would be able to actually do something beyond healing them, and distributing potions to keep them on the battle. I was already nervous, or rather desperate to go out of this fucking dimension, to kick Hela's butt to the afterlife, this time, permanently. No ceilings like Odin had done, which was possibly the most stupid decision in his life. Not only did that increase her rage for him over the years, but it was basically a fucking time bomb waiting to explode the moment he perished. The worst part. The absolute moron had not prepared anyone to deal with Hela. Like, I understand you can't bring yourself to hurt your daughter, though I'm pretty sure my reasons are vastly different to that of Odin's. The point was that in a way, I could understand his reasoning. But only partially. If he didn't want to deal with the consequences of his actions, he should have prepared Thor for it. Heck, even Loki. But no, he went with the old, let's just fake till I make it. Which had royally fucked us all so far. Pun not intended. 2 minutes left in hell. 120 seconds away. I can barely contain my excitement. Odin Borson POV. I hated feeling this weak. Not because of power, but because I refused to help my people by fighting my own daughter. When did I become such a coward? Even now, instead of going to battle Hela like any battle-forged warrior should, I was waiting for Alex to break out of hell, counting the seconds like a damsel in distress. Like a child. Nothing will ever be the same, Frigga spoke, her tone cold and distant. It pained me to hear her speak to me like that, but I knew I deserved such treatment. I had lied to her, for thousands of years. I know, I nodded. You don't, not really, Frigga replied, her cold and distant gaze on me. This little secret of yours could have killed us, Thor, Loki, and then wage wars around the universe, claiming billions of lives every single day, all because you couldn't have an ounce of common sense. I could have helped you, maybe I wouldn't have understood you, but I would have tried. Now, it's too late for me to even try. I know, I repeated, as Frigga returned to her meditation, seeing what was happening in Asgard. Thor Odinson POV. Our battle continued in a never-ending cycle, damaging Hela, only to see her recover whatever wounds we had inflicted in a matter of seconds. Sometimes some wounds just instantly healed. To top that, this battle had shown me I was severely lacking in the hand-to-hand area of combat. It had become harder for me to strike her with my bare hands, but if anything, this battle was helping me connect to my godly realm in a more intimate manner. Before today, Mjolnir was always my focus point to call forth my powers, and unfortunately, as Hela had said, I had grown dependent on Mjolnir and how easy it made for me to summon my lightning. Thankfully, I was not alone in this battle anymore. Without Mjolnir, I was not sure how long could I last. A few minutes tops before she pierces like a training dummy. Any idea how to stop her regeneration? Otherwise, we'll be here, forever, Bucky asked, firing a few shots at Hela, who not only parried the bullets away but in kind sent a few blades his way. Thankfully, Bucky had a few of Alex's golems around his general location, serving as shields when needed. None at the moment, the Ancient One replied, creating hundreds of illusions of herself, each illusion summoning bright orange chains, binding Hela momentarily. This is cute, darling, Hela chuckled, looking at the chains around her, before breaking the chains as hundreds of swords emerged from her body. But you aren't the first eldritch sorcerer, or in this case, sorceress I have battled in my time. So far, you, like them, leave much to desire. Growling, I ran towards her, concentrating on charging as much power as possible in a single point, before releasing a massive lightning bolt that struck Hela from the heavens. As I said, cute Hela smiled, as the smoke cleared, one sword pointing at the sky, with the very ground beneath her burnt to a crisp. The more I battled you all, the more I adapt, or have you forgotten who I am? I have battled more wars and enemies than anyone in existence, and spoiler, I have yet to lose. I blinked, realizing what she had done. She had used her blade and body as a lightning rod, redirecting the power of my lightning to the ground beneath her, effectively neutralizing most if not all damage from my attack. I swear to God, if she compliments herself again, I will shoot myself and end my misery, Bucky complained, and he was right, and people said I was too egocentric, ha. Meet my sister. Thor, take this, Sif said, drawing my attention before tossing me a common Asgardian longsword. I swung the sword a few times, familiarizing myself with the weapon before I smiled. It was no hammer or axe, but it would do. Yes, please, use a weapon, without one, darling, no offense, you are pathetic, Hela chuckled, plunging both of her blades in the ground, before summoning two bigger, meaner-looking ones. As much as this has been a party by every Asgardian definition of the word, I am remarkably tired of this charade. I have a throne to sit in, and a few thousand traitors that decided to run out of the planet, instead of staying to kill, so as you see, I'm behind schedule as it is. But before she could move, someone appeared behind her, grabbing both of her arms before pulling them back. That someone was my brother. Alex. I beamed, seeing the look of confusion on Dawn Hela's face. How did you escape hell in such a short amount of time? Hela asked, as Alex tightened his grip on her arms, pulling them back, even more, filling the entire area with bone-cracking sounds. You should have been trapped there at least for a few extra hours. She added. Alex smiled, moving his head close to her ear as he whispered, "Fuck you. That's how then." With that said and done, he released Hela, pushing her ever so lightly, somehow making her stumble a few steps forward, before he plunged his entire right feet right through her, impaling her, from her spine to her chest in a bloody mess, his foot right between her breasts that now were coated in blood. As you can see, those 2 hours in hell did wonders to my rage, so excuse me if I don't treat you gently. It was clear to see, for and anyone near. Alex was beyond pissed. That's it for the video, guys. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe. Also tell me in the comment section which kind of fanfiction you would like to watch next, or if you have a recommendation.